The Road to Ninja movie was a thrill ride for me. Yeah, I know it's not canon, but really, what is canon anymore? We said that the Blood Prison movie wasn't canon, yet Naruto acknowledges it in Boruto. Either way, this story was good, and it displayed something so good that it might have been written by Kishimoto himself. It takes time to tell a fascinating story, as well as exploring the main character's strife on an emotional level deeply. Sakura, for the first time, gets to understand what it feels like to have no parents. Naruto gets to experience what it was like to grow up with parents. At first, he's defensive, but afterward, he begins to warm up until the realization breaks immersion for him. That was so sad. In this story, we get to meet another interesting character. A boy in a fox mask who appears to have strength on par with pain. An evil incarnation of Naruto, Menma. This version of Naruto is one who was corrupted, a dark counterpart who was manipulated by Tobi until he was freed by Naruto. Someone so similar to Naruto, yet so different. I always loved the concept of Menma, the characterization of him, his usage of the Dream Kurama without issue. I want to take Menma for a moment and transport him into the true Naruto world. Let's explore a world where Menma was real. A world where maybe Menma and Naruto grew up beside each other. What if Naruto and Menma were brothers? Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. Minato stood there, his feet firmly planted on the ground. Slowly he was skidding, his feet fighting to maintain ground. His arms were wrapped around Kushina, who was reaching back, gripping his hips as her bare feet bled, attempting to hold tight to what little ground the Ninetales had given them. She grunted as a small stream of blood dripped from her lips. Directly before her eyes was a bloody claw, one that had perforated not only herself but Minato. His blood mingled with hers on the end of the demon fox's claw. She fought for breath, as did Minato. Minato, gazing over her shoulder, caught a glimpse of the two precious things worth dying for. The things he was sacrificing himself for right now. Two tiny babies who seemed oblivious to the carnage and mayhem around them. He recalled it. He'd been standing in the room with the nurses, his hand pressed against Kushina's seal as at first she screamed, and then a tinier voice screamed. Screaming into life with passion and strength, a set of tiny lungs were set ablaze by the immediate need to draw breath. A traumatic experience for a child, but one they would surely forget. Minato calmed down and removed his hands from the seal as a child with dark black hair was shown to him. At first, Minato was confused. He had blonde hair and Kushina had red. So where did this child inherit black? Suddenly, Kushina screamed again, taking the room by surprise. A red aura began to cover her body as the Ninetales seized an opportunity. Minato quickly rushed back over and pressed his hands to her stomach. "Kushina, what's wrong?" he called out, begging her to acknowledge him in some way. But she couldn't. Tears streamed down her cheek as she grit her teeth. Biwako came to Kushina's legs. "Another crown," she called out. Minato looked over. What does this mean? She didn't acknowledge the question as another nurse rushed over. Biwako looked over Kushina's knees. "Dear, you gotta push. Push hard. I know you're tired, but you've gotta push." Minato was in a state of panic, his concentration breaking as the Ninetales chakra leaked out from under his palm. Biwako slapped him in the shoulder. "Pay attention, Lord Fourth," she shouted. Minato attempted to concentrate. "Keep going," Biwako shouted. "You're almost there. Push, push." With a cry of Kushina's pain, there was a second cry. Biwako sighed in relief. Minato looked over. There was a second child in Biwako's arms. She was cleaning the babe off. This time, the child was blonde. Biwako looked up at the clock. "Mark it 01:35 hours. This one is 4 minutes and 12 seconds younger than the other." Minato was in shock. Two children? He looked to Kushina. "Please tell me you're done now." She was just laying there, panting heavily, trying to catch her breath. He walked over to her and moved the matted hair from her forehead and gave her a gentle kiss. She smiled. He then walked over. He was presented with the eldest dark-haired baby as Kushina was presented with the lighter-haired younger baby. Minato looked them over to ensure they were healthy before kissing them. "Now we have a dilemma," he said. Kushina, holding the baby up, looked at him with confusion. Minato smiled. "We only bothered to think up a single boy name. What do we name the other?" Kushina looked at the baby in her arms. "This one is Naruto, and the one you're holding will be..." She looked at her child, and then at Minato. She decided to keep with the theme of naming the child after something found in a bowl of ramen. But furthermore, she chose the name that sounded the closest to Minato's. "That one we'll name Menma." Minato held the child up to the light. "Menma. I love it." He brought the babe closer to his cheeks and said its name quietly and lovingly. "Menma. "Hello, Menma. I'm your daddy. But I am sure you know that we just can't let Minato and Kushina be happy. It's against the rules to let them enjoy their lives together, so we need to bring the Judas into this. Benedict Arnold in shinobi form has to betray his mentor and attempt to take the Nine Tails." Most of that is how you recall it up to this point that we've reached. As Minato and Kushina were bleeding out, Minato made the decision. They must seal the beast up. Finishing the hand signs, Minato called upon the Grim Reaper himself, the Shinigami that would take the life of he who summoned it in exchange for helping him. Minato ripped the Nine Tails chakra and reverted it to a form that could be sealed away, pure chakra. However, as the beast flowed through his body, he knew that he couldn't seal the whole thing up into a child, lest it escape. Looking upon his sons, a son of light and a son of darkness, a child of yin and a child of yang. And so, using this concept, he split the Nine Tails into two halves, a yin half and a yang half. The yin he sealed within the darker-haired child, and the yang he sealed within the lighter-haired child. As the swirling seal on their bellies disappeared, Minato then noticed the two possessed a mark already on their stomachs, a strange birthmark around where the seal was. Had it been there before? Had he merely not noticed it? The darker-haired child possessed a moon-shaped birthmark on his stomach, as the other possessed what appeared to be the sun on his. These truly were the brothers of light and darkness. It was as if fate had preordained this. In that moment, he had a flash of suffering, but it was hard to tell whose suffering he was witnessing. Was it his children? Was it the world? Before he had a chance to think further, the Shinigami tightened its grip on Minato's soul. Minato leaned forward with Kushina, and they both kissed their children. Minato felt his soul leave his body. For a moment, he was viewing the situation in third person, seeing his own body before suddenly he entered the darkness of the Shinigami's mouth and finally landed in its stomach. Kushina felt Minato slump, and a tear came to her eyes knowing that he'd left her. But as she looked down at the gaping hole in her stomach, blood and bile pouring from the wound, her body shuddered in the cold, no longer feeling the pain. She felt her heart skipping beats, stopping and starting, like a motor being bogged down by lack of fuel. She took a deep breath as she looked to her children. She smiled and exhaled her last words, her eyes darkening as she said them. "I love you." She then fell onto the ground, dead. Hiruzen would rush in to protect the children. These two he would raise for a short time until they were old enough to take care of themselves. A few years pass, and the children are living on their own. Innocent and full of smiles, they know not what they lost nor the life ahead of them. The two play with each other all day. They draw and color, they watch TV and play video games. Hiruzen was a kind man. While he couldn't actually watch them, he would visit every so often with money. Sometimes the two would get to have dinner with him. Despite the way that most people saw him as a failure of a Hokage who barely kept the village afloat, Menma and Naruto saw him like a grandpa. He was everything they wanted to be. They loved him. Sometimes he would bring them something to eat, other times he'd bring them new toys and games, and on one particular occasion, he brought them a gaming console. The two of them were so pleased. But his kindness was the only thing besides the joy of the men from Ichiraku to actually show them that the village cared anything for them. Elsewhere, rumors abounded. Stories that the fourth Hokage had only been able to defeat the Nine Tails by ripping its chakra in half and using a special forbidden jutsu to transform it into people. Two people. Naruto and Menma were oblivious to this, but everyone who saw them believed it. The Nine Tails, the beast that had killed so many, was standing before them in two miniature helpless frames. This made people seek justice. Menma and Naruto were walking home from the store. In their hands were two bags filled to the brim with ramen. "I got the cheese-flavored one, Menma, look!" He would lift the cup up and show his brother. Menma would stick his hand in. "I got the beef." These two had often found themselves at odds over certain things, but they couldn't help but agree that ramen noodles were the best food in the world. But life plays no favorites, and cruelty finds itself choosing any, regardless of their ability to defend themselves. Menma and Naruto would be pulled into an alleyway by a group of Chunin who had hoped to get revenge. You see, these Chunin were children during the time that the Nine Tails attacked, and so they had lost their parents in the ensuing battle. Hearing that the Nine Tails was now allowed to live in the village, even further being protected by the Hokage, they found themselves full of anger and hatred. They pulled them into the darkest alleyway and threw them against the wall, causing the contents of their grocery bags to spill out. Naruto tried to gather it back up, but one of the Chunin stepped up and kicked him in the side of the head. "What gives you the right to live here in Konoha? What gives you the right to breathe our air? To walk our streets and eat our food? To have protection from our Hokage?" Naruto gripped his jaw, certain that they'd knocked out a tooth. Menma would see this and stand up in anger. Looking to those who had attacked his brother, he grit his teeth. "I hate you!" he shouted with fists clenched. He grabbed an old pipe and ran at the Chunin with it. This did very little in the grand scheme of things, however. He too was kicked and knocked against the wall. The moment that his back struck the wall, he felt all air leave his lungs. He attempted to get it back, his mind aflame with panic as nothing would enter. Suddenly, his lungs were covered and air rushed in. The Chunin walked over to him. "A pipe? You're as stupid as you are weak. I think we'll start by beating you senseless and force the other to watch." One of the other Chunin gripped Naruto, whose teeth were still bleeding. They held his head, gripping him by the back of the neck and forcing him to watch as the lead Chunin mercilessly beat Menma, his foot clashing against the child's face and torso, drawing blood and causing bruises. Suddenly, a man wearing an Anbu mask came from the rooftops and stood there. He stared at the two of them from beneath his mask, eyes like fire. "That's plenty enough," he said as he raised to his full height. "Leave them alone now." The Chunin saw him and scoffed. "You're defending them? Who do you think you are?" The man did not speak, he just stood there. The first Chunin gave Menma one last kick as the second threw Naruto to the side. Both of them began to leave the alleyway, leaving Naruto and Menma alone with the new Anbu operative. Naruto crawled over to Menma, who was unconscious. "Oh no, he's dead. They killed him. They killed my brother." The Anbu agent walked over and felt for a pulse. "No, he's still alive, I promise. He's just been knocked out." Naruto's tears seemed to slow a little. The agent lifted Menma up in his arms and held him, resting the boy's battered face against his chest. He held out his free hand and took Naruto's with an odd sense of comfort and empathy. Naruto took it and the two walked back to the children's apartment. The door opened and the Anbu agent walked to their room where he lay Menma down in the bed. Naruto watched from the door as the agent slowly examined the boy. Raising his lids, the agent checked to see if Menma had a concussion, which of course he did. The agent went back to the freezer and grabbed some ice and put it into a towel, bringing it back. He pressed it against Menma's swollen cheek. He looked back at Naruto and motioned him in. Naruto slowly came closer. His entire body was shaking and he still had tears in his eyes from the experience. The agent's shoulders drooped a little. He put his thumb on the child's chin. "Open your mouth, please." Naruto opened his mouth and indeed one of his molars were missing. It had been knocked out. But there was some good news as this was merely a baby tooth and would be replaced eventually anyway. "Your tooth is gone, but it should be replaced not too long from now anyway with a big boy tooth. After all, that's what you are, right? A big boy." Naruto nodded. The agent continued. "And a big boy is strong and cares for his brother even if he's scared, right?" Naruto nodded again. The agent nodded, his expressions hidden below his mask, but his eyes bearing kindness and a glimmer of love. Something Naruto had not truly ever seen, not even in Mr. Hiruzen's eyes, only ever in his brother's. This left Naruto to wonder who this Anbu agent really was. And being the inquisitive boy he was, he couldn't help but ask, "Who are you, Mr. Fox Mask?" The man cocked his head to the side for a moment in thought. "Your guardian." Naruto repeated those words as a question. The man continued, "I was asked by Lord Third, Hiruzen, to always watch over you and your brother. He knew it would be hard to defend yourselves, so I'm here to make sure that you don't have to. I'm sorry it took me a little while to show up." He transferred the ice to Naruto's cheek. "Are you okay?" Naruto's tears began to drip again as he hugged the man. The man was speechless, but his heart was filled with compassion. He returned the hug. "Don't worry, I'm always watching you. I won't let anyone hurt you." Naruto kept hugging the man. This Anbu agent had grown to love these children in the time that he'd been watching them. For what seemed to be dusk until dawn, he kept an eye out as per Hiruzen's orders. But he had done the thing that a good agent never does. He got emotionally attached. He had also lived through the devastation of the Nine-Tails attack, but this agent was not deceived by the rumors. He knew these children weren't the Nine-Tails incarnate, but the Jinchuriki of the beast. He stroked Naruto's hair like a loving uncle would and returned the ice to Menma, who was beginning to stir. Naruto let go when he heard Menma grunt. Naruto turned his full attention to his brother. The agent would put the ice in Naruto's hand. "Keep this pressed to your cheek for a while. It'll make the swelling go down and ease the pain he'll feel when he wakes up." He stood there for a moment. He looked to Naruto. "You know I'm always watching you. If you need to talk to me, take this tape and make an X on your window with it. When I see the X, I'll know to actually meet up with you, okay?" Naruto nodded. The man then disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto kept holding the ice to Menma's cheek. Slowly, the boy opened his eyes. "Naruto?" Tears of happiness streamed down Naruto's cheeks. "I'm here, Menma." Naruto helped Menma to recover. Days passed, and Naruto told Menma about the masked man. Menma hadn't seen him, but he was interested. Naruto decided that he would mark the window so that the two could meet him together. However, after marking the window, nothing happened. The man didn't show up. Naruto was confused, and Menma began to believe that Naruto had imagined the man, but little did they know that the man they hoped to meet could not come. The reason? The Uchiha had begun an uprising, and the Anbu had to put it down, particularly Root, under the command of Danzo Shimura. The battle was intense. Now, you see, I'm taking it a step further. Instead of Menma being Naruto's brother, I'm actually making him the Indra reincarnation as well, meaning that Sasuke in this world was never born. Instead, his role is being filled by Menma, and due to the fact that Itachi no longer has anyone to protect, it seems doubtful that he will attempt to destroy the clan. This means that the Uchiha would likely learn of this, and an all-out war breaks out in the village between the Anbu and the Uchiha. The smoke and flames can be seen from the children's apartment. The two watch, confused as to what may be happening and why the village is on fire. Is it an attack? Menma asks. Maybe someone left the stove on, Naruto says. Menma goes to answer, but suddenly feels a hand cover his mouth. Naruto attempts to scream, but it's muffled by the hand of another. Two sets of glowing red eyes stare at them from the shadows. The Uchiha. They grab the two out of the apartment and into the nearby forest where they lay Naruto down on a slab. They grip Menma tightly as the Uchiha begins the process of unsealing the yang half of Kurama. Hold still and I'll try to make it painless, the Uchiha says. Naruto cries out as the beast is slowly pulled out of him. Tears stream down his face as his voice pierces the night, sending the nocturnal creatures and fowl fleeing from them. Menma stands there and sees this. Tears form in his own eyes as he reaches out for Naruto. Naruto cannot move, he's in too much pain. Suddenly something snaps inside of Menma. He grips the arm of the Uchiha holding him and breaks their wrist. The Uchiha cries out in pain as a thick red aura envelops Menma. His fingers turn to talon-like claws as his eyes glow a deep red. Naruto sees this as he falls unconscious. The Uchiha, slowly working on Naruto, looks over his shoulders to see the commotion, but suddenly he sees the child's clawed hands coming for him. The fingers gouge the eyes and push deeper until cries of agony stop and the body of the Uchiha falls. Menma looks back to see 3 more Uchiha coming at him. He steps forward to kill them as well, but before he can, a man in a mask drops from the sky and steps between Menma and the Uchiha. With one quick strike from his blade, he decapitates the 3 Uchiha, leaving himself and Menma alone with Naruto. He would rush over and reseal the beast into Naruto as Menma's aura disappears. Are you the guardian guy with the mask? The man looks back and nods. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner. I had to help with the uprising, but I'm here now and I won't leave your side. So he gathered up the frightened Naruto and took him and Menma back home. He kept his eyes open the entire time. All the while, he thought about how cruelly the world had treated 2 innocent and defenseless children. Stepping into their apartment, he closed the door and locked it behind him. He closed the curtains and turned on only a soft light. He walked to their couch and sat down, still holding Naruto close, who was still sniffing, scared of what they were doing. Menma sat there beside him and looked at the blood on his hands in confusion, wondering why it was that he was capable of doing that. Menma looked at the Anbu agent and asked what happened and why he could do what he did, but the agent did not respond. He said that this was a question for Lord Hiruzen. Menma sat there and watched Naruto. Menma crawled up to them and put his hand on Naruto's back. He looked at the masked man and realized that everything that Naruto had told him about this man was true. He was loving. He was kind. He was everything he'd been told. Mister, who are you? Menma asked. The man looked at him. I'm your guardian. Menma shook his head. No, you're always wearing that mask. Who are you, really? The man thought for a second, as even Naruto had turned his eye to him, wondering if he would divulge this information. The man thought for a moment and sighed. He lifted his hand and gripped his mask, slowly removing it to reveal a young man of about age 20, his hair white and his eyes displaying what seemed to be heterochromia, until Menma realized that his left eye was the same as those people who had tried to hurt Naruto. He seemed to get a little defensive. The man smirked. If I were with those people, I wouldn't have saved you. Menma admitted this made sense and he calmed down. The man spoke. My name is Kakashi Harake, and I chose to be your guardian. Kakashi, Naruto repeated. Menma looked on. Why did you protect us? Kakashi looked over. I chose to do so because I cared for your father. Your father was like a father to me, making you two like my little brothers. I just couldn't stand to see the pain you were in. I had to do something. He looked at Menma, who still possessed blood on his hands and on his face. Kakashi stood and sat Naruto down. He then escorted Menma to the bathroom, where he took a wet rag and proceeded to clean him off. I'm sorry bad stuff keeps happening, but you two are strong, aren't you? Menma nodded. Kakashi nodded too and carried him back to the couch. Together they sat in silence until fatigue seemed to catch up to them. And as they began to fall asleep, pressed against his chest, he stood and carried them to their bedroom and laid them both in the shared bed that they had and covered them up. He proceeded to sit by the bed with them as they slept all night until morning when another Anbu agent came to the window. Menma remembered waking up to see Kakashi standing by the window talking. No survivors. They wouldn't surrender and Danzo ordered us to scorch the earth. Kakashi nodded and sighed. He seemed really sad. What about... The agent looked at Kakashi with a questioning face. What about Itachi? He was on my team for a while. The agent was silent for a moment. I'm sorry. He attempted to defend his father and was killed in battle. Kakashi closed his eyes with sorrow and took a deep breath. He composed himself and looked up. Thank you for the report. The agent disappeared. Kakashi turned to look and noticed Menma looking at him. He walked over and stroked his head. Well, good morning to you, Menma. Menma looked up. What happened? Kakashi smiled. All the bad people who tried to hurt you and Naruto were caught. You two are safe again. I'll still watch over you, but you're free to have your privacy again. You remember the signal, right? Menma nodded. If we need you, tape an X to our window. Kakashi gave him a thumbs up. Give your brother my love when he wakes up. I'll also send Hiruzen your way whenever I can. Then he disappeared. Menma lay there in bed and thought all about it. Naruto, meanwhile, was cuddling up to Menma, still sleeping. The window remained open. The sunlight, chirping of birds, and sound of the wind blowing through could be heard. Menma smelled the scent of the flowers as they bloomed. He too would find himself lulled back to sleep by this. Eventually, the two would get back up sometime around noon. Menma and Naruto wouldn't really go anywhere that day, still slightly shaken from the past few. As they waited at home and played their games, they would hear a knock at the door. Menma would answer it and see the elderly Hokage smiling at them. May I come in? He said with his gruff yet caring voice. Menma let him in. He sat down at the table and looked at the pictures. One of the pictures was a rough illustration of Kakashi wearing his mask. I see you met Kakashi. Do you like him? Naruto nodded as he drew another picture of him. Yeah, he's really nice. He's like you. Hiruzen would let off a small laugh. I brought some food for us all and a board game. Maybe we can spend some time together. I know you both had a trying day. Menma nodded and sat down. Those Uchiha people came and tried to kill Naruto. Hiruzen began to make some tea for himself and the children. Indeed. Kakashi told me that. He also said that you two were very strong and that you attempted to defend your brother, Menma. He told me that something happened and you didn't understand it. Menma was silent as he looked at his fingers. Hiruzen sat back down. There's no need for you to feel upset about what happened. You merely defended yourself and your brother. Menma looked up. Feel bad? No, I don't feel bad at all. Those guys got what they deserved. If I could do it again, I would. Hiruzen seemed slightly distressed by that statement, but tried to clear it away from his mind as he cleared his throat. Anyway, that strange ability. Menma sat forward. What was it? I felt so strong, like I could do anything. Hiruzen nodded. I had hoped to hide this from you for as long as I could. I didn't want you to have an unnatural childhood, but it seems nothing would have stopped that anyway. He began to pour tea. 6 years ago, on the day you were born, the nine-tailed fox escaped from its prison within your mother. You see, she was a very special woman. She was called a Jinchuriki. Naruto raised his hand. What was her name? Hiruzen smiled. It was Kushina. Kushina Uzumaki. Naruto gasped and smiled. Her name was so pretty. Was she pretty too? Hiruzen nodded. Immensely. Her hair was red, like fire, and burned almost as brightly as her personality. I see a lot of her in you, Naruto. As Jinchuriki, her job was to seal the demon fox into her body, but somehow the fox escaped. I believe it was let out by someone evil. Probably one of the Uchiha who tried to hurt you. The fox came out of her and she began to die, but she kept her babies close. You two. Your father was a man named Minato Namikaze, and he was the Hokage. His face is right beside mine on the rock. He was a strong-willed man. Hiruzen looked to Menma. I see so much of him in you, Menma. He was someone that could take charge of a situation quickly. Hiruzen would then take a sip of his tea. The day the demon fox escaped, Minato used a forbidden jutsu to split the power of the demon fox in half, and seal one half into each of you. Naruto, Menma, the both of you, like your mother, are Jinchuriki. Inside of you, the demon fox lays imprisoned, and every so often you can use its power. That is what happened to you last night. You called on the power of the Nine Tails and it heeded your call. It gave you the strength to save your brother. Menma looked at his hands. Naruto's hand shot up. So I can do it too? Hiruzen nodded. You both can. But do be careful. The fox is not your friend. He wants to escape and hurt people. So be wary of anything he should say and try not to use his powers unless you absolutely have to. Naruto nodded. Can you tell us more about our parents, Grandpa Hiruzen? Hiruzen stroked his beard and smiled. Indeed. And so Hiruzen regaled them with stories of Minato and Kushina. Some were happy, some were sad. Some stories made them laugh, but all the while, it merely made them more aware of the hole in their heart. Hiruzen knew that this was the case, but he didn't stop talking about them. He knew that Naruto and Menma deserved to know the truth about their parents. They would talk over dinner, and they'd talk over a board game. They would talk over a movie and while playing video games. Naruto and Menma seemed so happy, but sadly Hiruzen could not stay all night. so he got them ready for bed and tucked them in. He gave each a kiss on the forehead and proceeded to leave them there to sleep. The next day, Menma awakens to see Naruto straddling him, his eyes full of wonder and joy. "I know what we can do today," Naruto said. "I want to go see the Monument of Daddy. Can we go see it, Menma?" Menma sat up. "Sure, I want to see him too." So the two boys would get up, have breakfast, brush their teeth, and head out. As they wandered the streets, they would find a good place from which to view the monument. "Wow, look at him. He had so much hair," Naruto shouted. Menma looked on. "He was handsome too. I wonder if we'll be handsome like him when we grow up." Naruto shrugged. The two of them would sit there and have lunch, just staring at the monument and talking about him. "I hope we can meet him someday," Naruto said between bites of his sandwich. Menma continued to look up at it. "I want to be Hokage too one day," Naruto said. "Then maybe they'll respect us." Menma looked over. "Nah, I think I'd rather be in the Anbu like Mr. Kakashi." Naruto smiled. "Oh, I love the Anbu. Maybe we can both join." Menma seemed confused. "I thought you said you wanted to be Hokage." Naruto shrugged. "Why can't I do both? Both are ninja, right? So why not be both?" Menma thought about it. "I guess you have a point." After lunch, they began to walk home when they noticed a store selling masks. "Oh look, that one looks like Mr. Kakashi's mask," Naruto said, pointing to a fox mask. Naruto walks into the store and picks it up. He and Menma look around the shop at the many masks being sold, but suddenly they feel themselves lifted by the shirt and thrown out by the shopkeeper. "Get out! We don't serve your kind!" Naruto hit the ground and seemed shocked. But we just wanted to look at your stuff, mister." The shopkeep threw the mask at him. "You want the thing so damn badly, you take it. Never come back." Naruto had been struck by the mask. The mask hit the ground in front of him, landing in the mud. The shopkeep disappeared inside the store once more, while Menma was sorely tempted to unleash his demon fox power to kill that man, but he didn't. Naruto seemed shaken. He looked up and saw the crowd standing around him, whispering to each other and just staring with contempt. Menma looked up as Naruto stood. "Naruto, are you okay?" Naruto ran off through the crowd. Menma stood up and looked at the crowd around him. "Are you all happy with yourselves? You made my brother cry. You're all bad people." He rushed through the crowd after Naruto. Naruto ran through the streets as fast as he could. Menma called out to him from behind. "Naruto! Naruto, wait up!" Menma made his way back to their apartment after having lost track of Naruto. As he stepped in, he noticed the door was unlocked. Closing the door behind him, he locked it and went deeper. "Naruto? Naruto?" He heard the sound of light sniffling as he stepped into he and Naruto's bedroom. "Naruto?" He came around the bed and found Naruto sitting in the corner, his legs pulled up, his face hidden in his knees. Menma came down on his hands and knees and made his way over. He sat down beside him. "Don't bother with what that man said. He's dumb. The crowd of people are dumb too." Naruto looked up. "Why do they hate us? We didn't do anything wrong, did we?" Menma shook his head. "No, there's no way we did anything wrong. If anything, Mr. Hiruzen makes it sound like we did good and saved the village by sealing the nine tails inside of us." Naruto continued to sniffle. "Then why does everyone hate us?" Menma shakes his head. "I don't know." He looks forward and sees the mask. He picks it up and looks at it. "Here, you have it. It looks like Kakashi's mask. You should have it." Naruto shook his head. "I don't want it anymore. The mean man ruined it." Menma looked at it to see if it was damaged, but upon seeing it fully functional and in perfect condition, he realized that Naruto meant that on an emotional level. He hadn't ruined the mask, he had ruined Naruto's desire to have it. Now, the mask that once symbolized Naruto's love for their guardian represented hatred. Hate of the village. Hatred and pain. He held the mask for a time and looked it over. He then put it in a box under their bed. He leaned over and hugged Naruto. Inside of Menma's heart, though, he was full of such pure rage and wrath. "It'll be okay, Naruto. I still love you." The rest of the day was ruined. Naruto's smile that generally lit up the entire room was nowhere to be found, instead being replaced by a melancholic stare, and a silence that made it feel like it was raining outside, despite it being sunny and bright. That night, they would go to bed and prepare to sleep. Naruto was the first to fall asleep as per usual. Menma was left there in bed, staring up at the ceiling, just thinking about the village and the way it treated him, but worse, how it treated Naruto. Naruto wasn't mean. Naruto was kind and happy. In fact, Menma could admit that out of the two of them, Naruto was the kindest and most pure. And to see the world treat him like that hurt Menma worse than every kick that Chunin had forced upon him. Eventually, Menma too would drift off to sleep, but as he did, his dream wasn't normal. It was dark. He heard a voice. "Humanity hates you." Menma looked around for the source of the voice. "Humanity wants you to die." The room lit up, and before him a large cage, sitting in the middle of a reflecting pool. Menma approached it to see a set of red fox eyes staring back at him from within the cage. "Perhaps you and I are more alike than I would like to admit. It seems that you understand the way humans are. Doesn't that anger you? Doesn't it make you want to strike back?" Menma nodded. "It does." A set of carnivorous teeth appeared to smile in the darkness. "Of course it does. And so it should. I foresee this to be the beginning of a beautiful relationship between you and I. The sun was shining, the birds were chirping, and two boys walked home from the academy. Naruto was skipping about, basically dancing down the road, all while a slightly embarrassed Menma watched with a smile on his face, carrying his brother's things. Naruto honestly didn't think he would pass the test. Maybe he wouldn't have, but Menma helped him learn it. The clone transformation jutsu. They were now wearing the headband that all official ninja carried. This was their first step to their dreams. It was hard to believe that 6 years had passed. It was so quick. It seemed like only last week they were discussing with Lord Third who they really were and what their parents were like, and now they possessed the same headbands that other shinobi did. Naruto stopped and looked back at the Hokage monument. He held up his headband. "Dad, I did it! I'm officially a shinobi now! I'm gonna make you proud!" Menma rubbed the ringing from his ears after Naruto's outburst and let out a small chuckle. "How about something to eat? We got any celebration ramen stored up?" Naruto thought for a moment. "I don't know. Last I checked, our stock was getting a little scarce. Maybe we should go to the store." Menma shook his head. "Nah, today's a special day. I don't want to spend it buying groceries. Let's stop by Ichiraku and order something special." They would step into the eatery and sit down. Menma would wave out to the owner of the restaurant. "2 of today's special, Mr. Teuchi, and add an extra Narutomaki to my brother's bowl if you can." The old man turned back and smiled, giving them a thumbs up. Menma turned to Naruto. "See, I told you it'd be easy. You just gotta know the trick." Naruto smiled. "I did just like you said. I stopped focusing on how to make it and instead focused on believing I was who I was attempting to be." Menma listened to his brother list off the steps that he had taught him. Menma didn't need any lesson. He was the one who taught Naruto, but he let his brother continue, knowing that he was excited. "Your clone was even more impressive than the others. It lacked not a single detail. Your impersonation of Iruka-sensei even garnered his praise, which he rarely gives anyone." Teuchi would then bring them a bowl of ramen each. Menma went to pull out his wallet, but Teuchi raised his hand. "It's on the house." Menma looked up. "You sure?" "Yeah. You two deserve a treat. You're both fully fledged shinobi now." Menma thanked him for his generosity, and the two began to eat. Together they would return to their home and spend the rest of the day at rest, doing whatever they wished. Tomorrow was a big day as well, as they'd meet their Jonin for the first time and schedule their missions, and so the two of them would eventually fall asleep. Naruto declared that he'd be unable to sleep due to how excited he was, but immediately after saying that, he conked out and started sawing logs. Menma would sit up in his own bed and just look out over the village. He felt empty. He was finally a genin now, but it didn't feel like that meant anything. He'd lost his drive. His love for the village had grown cold, so what was he fighting for? He thought these things as he drifted off to sleep. The next day, he awakened and prepared to head to the academy where he'd be introduced to his own Jonin. Sad as it was likely that Naruto and Menma would be separated. Naruto knew this, but was prepared. "We can't always rely on each other," Menma said. Naruto shook his head. "No. You can rely upon me forever. I'll always be by your side, no matter what." They walked down the road and saw the other kids gathering at the school. It was early, the sun just only barely rising, and the angle in which it was shining gave the village an orange glow, all while the sky itself was slowly lightening blue with just a hint of violet mixed in. They came to the doors and waited for their turn to enter. Making their way to the homeroom, they waited. They saw students filing in. They heard the clamoring of voices speaking indistinctly as they sat at their desks. It felt like it was taking forever. Naruto felt some butterflies in his stomach. He was a little nervous, but mostly excited. This was the start of his life. He waited as Iruka eventually walked in. Iruka told everyone to quiet down and take their seats. Slowly, the sound of voices were replaced with the screeching of chairs being dragged across the ground as the students sat down. The voices then lowered into a whisper before disappearing entirely. Iruka looked down at his paper. "Today is a momentous occasion for each of you. It marks the beginning of the rest of your lives. Lives full of honor. Lives of fulfillment, lives where your dreams can become reality. But before these things can happen, you must each become members of a 3-man squad and receive a Jonin. Now I will read off the teams and the names of the members who will be on them. When I do, I'll give you a room number. You will go to that room and await your Jonin." Iruka began to name teams and the names of students before naming off a room. Slowly, the classroom began to thin out as 18 of the students were assigned to their teams. Iruka then spoke again. "Team 7. It consists of Naruto Uzumaki, Menma Uzumaki, and Sakura Haruno." Naruto sat forward and gripped Menma's arm, shaking it as if he were trying to get his brother's attention. "We're on the same team! We're on the same team!" Menma smiled as he looked over at Sakura, her hair a redder pink, her eyes glowing like diamonds. "I know," he said, his face growing redder. Iruka continued. "You will await your Jonin in room 12B. Menma and Naruto began to collect their things and stand. Sakura was already on her way, so they filed in behind her. The three made it to the room as Naruto waited excitedly. Menma sat down by Sakura. "So, you come here often?" She looked over and rolled her eyes. "Kill me now," she said in response to his failed attempt at Riz. They waited there for a moment. "Who do you think our Jonin will be?" Naruto asked. Menma shrugged. "It could be anyone. I have no clue whosoever they'll choose." At about that time, a man walked in. Naruto and Menma felt their hearts stop for a moment as their legs were filled with the overwhelming desire to run to their teacher. It was Kakashi. They stepped over to him. "No way," Menma said in disbelief. "You're our Jonin? I thought the Anbu didn't do teams like this." Kakashi smiles. "They don't. I left it." Naruto and Menma were surprised. "You left the Anbu?" Kakashi shrugged. "I was getting tired. And when I heard that you two were about to graduate, I left the Anbu to become a Jonin under Hiruzen's request. Friends gotta stick together, right?" Sakura just sat there. "Oh gosh, I'm the third wheel." Kakashi walked over. "No, technically you're the fourth wheel, and a fourth wheel is just as important as the other three. Do you see any three-wheeled wagons anywhere?" He led them out. "Let's go somewhere a little less stuffy. I know Naruto and Menma pretty well, but I don't know you, Sakura, so tell me something about yourself." "Where do I begin?" she asked. "Anywhere you like. Tell me anything about yourself that you deem important." She thought for a moment. "Well, I am aspiring to become a field medic. I might not be as strong as the others, but I'll be damned if I won't pull my own weight. To that end, I study all day just to get anywhere close to worthy of such a position. That has the pleasant side effect of boosting my intelligence level and giving me knowledge of many things that most believe would be out of my age range." Kakashi nodded. "Sounds like you're very smart. Welcome to the team. This is Naruto and this is Menma. They live alone and eat ramen all day. That is literally all you need to know to understand them." Sakura offered a slight bow. Menma tried to sit her back up. "No need to bow, we're equals now. You and I. It's an honor to have you on our team, Sakura-chan." Sakura sighed. Inner Sakura was currently screaming, demanding to know why she had to be put on a team with him of all people. Kakashi stood there for a moment, embarrassed with how bad Menma was at attracting girls. He decided to spare him the pain of rejection and move on. He led them to a forest. "Normally, I don't tell anyone that this is a test about teamwork, but honestly, Naruto and Menma will have no issue working together as a team. So the goal of this is a little different. The goal is for Naruto and Menma to properly include you into their team, Sakura. Become a true three-man team." He stepped back. "The goal is to get these bells," he said, showing the group. "If you three get them, you pass. If you fail, though, well, we'll be doing this a lot until you do get them. Don't be afraid to go full power. If you're afraid of hurting or even killing me, don't be. I'll be just fine. Now, show me what you got." The three of them began to attack Kakashi. Just as predicted, Naruto and Menma stayed close together and worked well in tandem, but Sakura couldn't find a place to get in. They were mostly ignoring her, and this left her as the lone wolf of their party. Kakashi would pull back a little. "Good work, guys, but you gotta include Sakura. She has her own strengths that she can bring to the table and make you more effective." The others nodded. Menma looked back at Sakura. "Come on, let's attack him together." But immediately after saying that, Menma and Naruto rushed off to attack again, leaving Sakura to fend for herself. Kakashi sighed as he pushed them all away. "Wrong again. I know you three don't know each other well, but you're a single unit now. You've got to move like one. This means you gotta work together. Each take each other's abilities into consideration and begin to act." This is an easy thing for Naruto and Menma. They've worked together for so long that they can basically read each other's minds, but that doesn't give any of you an excuse. You gotta get used to each other, learn to cover for each other. Take some time and devise a plan, and then come at me again. Don't worry, I'll wait. Naruto and Menma walked over to Sakura. "So, what's next?" Sakura thought about it. "Kakashi-sensei doesn't seem to think we can work as a team. What if we just keep up that appearance?" Naruto cocked his head. "I don't follow." Sakura sighed. "It means that we'll be working together even though it looks like we're not. Basically, you two keep doing your thing and get his back turned to me. Do that and I'll make a clone to keep up appearances. While you two and the clone keep him occupied, I'll sneak up and take the bells." Menma nodded. "A very smart and intelligent plan. Very wise. What an honor it is to execute it with you." Sakura looked at him. "I don't know what you think this is, but it needs to stop. I'm not interested, Menma, and if you keep trying, it'll hurt the team." Menma's head lowered. "Okay." The two of them then rushed off to attack Kakashi. Kakashi was disappointed in this, but he kept fighting. They got behind him and began attempting to attack. He would dodge back as Sakura created a clone. The clone entered the fray, but did not attempt to actually strike Kakashi as she knew that it was not tangible. Kakashi would jump back from them. "Alright team, I'm starting to get a little bit disappointed. You guys don't seem to grasp the concept of what it means to be a team. This is a very important lesson as it could mean the difference between life or death on the battlefield." He looked down to see that Sakura had her grip on the bells and was slowly tugging them out. Kakashi looked forward towards the clone as it poofed out of existence. Naruto and Menma smiling from ear to ear. "You all came up with this plan together, didn't you?" Naruto nodded. We knew that you were doubtful of our ability to work together as a team, so we decided to keep up that appearance while Sakura snuck in from behind. Kakashi's eyes depicted a smile hidden below his mask. Well done. That was wonderful teamwork. From here on, you three should all train together, spar together, talk, and hang together. It'll make it easier to mesh in a fight. That's the essence of teamwork. The four of them would then go out for a ramen to celebrate their new team. Of course, Kakashi paid. He would lead them toward a crossroads where the streets that possessed their houses coincided. Kakashi would wave to his students. Have a good night. Our first mission begins tomorrow. The three would wave goodbye to their mentor as they returned home from their exercise. As soon as the door was open, Naruto's shoes came off and he went face first into his pillow. Aren't you going to shower first, Naruto? Menma asked. I'm too beat. Good night. He turned out the light. Menma would shower first before bed. As he lay there, he could only wonder what tomorrow's mission would look like. It couldn't be too hard. They were fresh, but nonetheless he desired to know what it was and he looked forward to it. We're doing what? Menma asked calmly, his face betraying his confusion. We're going to be doing community service today. It's a good way for you to build up your dedication. Remember, shinobi are hired out by others than the Hokage to do missions. There's never a mission too small, whether it be walking dogs, picking up litter, or helping a little old lady cross the street. It is still a mission. A mission someone paid for. A mission someone has to complete. So, together, the three of them began to do their missions. But something began to bother Menma and Naruto. As they would help others, those they helped didn't seem very grateful. They paid for the job, but never left tips. And whenever they did leave a tip, it was only ever to Kakashi or Sakura. This reminded Menma of something he'd been attempting to forget. Nobody cared about them. At all. Even though they were being helpful, they were still scorned and treated with contempt. But nobody said anything. Kakashi would eventually sit down with Menma at lunch. You seem a little upset. Menma looked up. I just don't get how people can be so mean. What, because you didn't get a tip? Kakashi asked. Menma shook his head. It's not about the money. The money's nice, but I wouldn't mind if they didn't give us a tip. It's why they don't tip that bothers me. They refuse to show us any form of support at all. Why? What did we do? We're not the demon fox, we're imprisoning it for them, to keep them safe. Kakashi shrugged. It's just the way it is, I suppose. The people aren't nice, nor do they easily forgive such a thing that's happened to them. The issue is, they have nowhere to put that anger and frustration, so they focus it on you. Menma sighed. I tried to help a little old lady across the street. As soon as I offered my hand, she pulled away and walked off. Kakashi didn't really know what to say. I'm sure you'll win them over. Maybe all it takes is for you to save them. Some grand heroic act to make you a superstar. Just keep your chin up. If you keep this up, you'll be able to prove yourself and they'll come around eventually. After lunch, they continued work, but they seemed to get even more depressed after not being recognized for their hard work. So Kakashi spoke with Hiruzen. They're not well received among the villagers, he said. They never were, and I doubt they ever will be. A lot of people were hurt in that Ninetales attack, Hiruzen responded. Kakashi stood there in silence for a moment. Do you think it would be possible for us to take a mission outside of the village? Something small, it doesn't have to be big. Just something to allow Naruto and Menma a chance to receive some unbiased appreciation. Hiruzen stood and walked to the file cabinet. He opened it up and began to look through the files for any genin mission outside of the village. We only have one mission to be done by a genin outside the village currently. It's an escort mission. A bridge master named Tazuna has come here for business from his home in the Land of Waves. He requested an armed guard transport to help him back home. He fears bandits and highwaymen may be laying in wait for travelers and hopes that we can provide him with safe passage. Kakashi took the file and looked through it. Interesting. This might just be a perfect fit. Would you mind assigning us to it? Hiruzen pulled out a form. Sure. Let me get on that right now. He took a pen and began to fill in some blanks before signing it and stamping it. He handed the paper to Kakashi. There. That should cover it. Kakashi took the form and looked it over. Thanks. I'll let the others know. Kakashi would then return to his team where he would explain what they were going to do the day after. The team grew excited and their joy drowned out their frustrations quite easily. Kakashi told his team to go home and rest as they would wake up early the next day. When daytime rolled around, they met with Tazuna by the gate. Together they began to leave. They walked with their charge towards the village of his birth. They made their way south and began to near the island. It's here that they'd be ambushed by the demon brothers and Menma would activate his initial Jinchuriki cloak. With great strength, he would step between his brother, his charge, and his team, eviscerating the brothers before they had the chance to change course. Kakashi was impressed by the strength and speed, but he was even more impressed, if not actually unnerved, by the brutality of Menma. Of course, their victory was short-lived, as they were soon attacked by Zabuza, who was on a totally different level compared to the Demon Brothers. It was Kakashi who had decided to be the one to fight him. Kakashi would unveil his Sharingan, which would allow him to copy Zabuza's moves. Due to Kakashi's intelligence and knowledge of jutsu, he could predict which hand signs came next, and he would be capable of nearly fooling Zabuza into believing that Kakashi could see the future. Zabuza managed to shake himself free of this though, and would proceed to use mist to cover himself and his tracks. He knew that so long as Kakashi couldn't see, he would not be a threat, and this strategy proved to be sound. Kakashi would be caught in a water prison, which threatened to drown him. It was left to Naruto, Menma, and Sakura to deal with this. Sakura would continue to guard Tazuna while Naruto and Menma prepared to fight. Menma would activate his Jinchuriki cloak. He knew that all they needed to do was knock Zabuza off balance. They just needed to force him to lose contact with the water prison and they could free Kakashi. And so, Menma decided that the best thing that they could do would be to rush him. He and Naruto threw everything they had at him, kunai, shuriken, anything he had on his body to throw. Zabuza was so busy defending himself from these that when Menma came at him, he couldn't properly defend, but he was far from defenseless. He jumped over the water prison and landed on the other side. Naruto would race forward as Menma came from behind, a pincer maneuver. Zabuza saw them coming and once more jumped to get away. What he didn't realize was that Naruto had asked Sakura to help them, and the moment he landed, a kunai was inches from his face. He used everything he had to pull away, avoiding the kunai, but in the process he accidentally freed Kakashi. Kakashi would come out swinging and knock Zabuza back. Zabuza looked at the team. Huh, so you have a demon on your side too. It was then that Haku would immobilize his mentor and reclaim his body. Team 7 had claimed victory, but it was bittersweet as Kakashi was too drained to continue. They realized just how much danger they were now in, and so they made their way to Tazuna's home as fast as they possibly could. They took time to let Kakashi rest, and as they did, Naruto and Menma would explore the house a bit, finding Inari. Inari was less than pleased with their presence, and Naruto and Menma could feel him staring daggers into the backs of their heads, but they persisted and attempted to be nice to him. Tazuna would beg pardon for his grandson's actions and explain to them why he was the way he was. The story of how he lost his father rocked Naruto and Menma to their cores, but it was something that they could relate to, so they would begin spending more time with him. Slowly, Inari began to open up to them and admitted that he liked having other kids his age in the house with him. The three would play. One day, Inari came right out and asked, "Why are you ninjas? Why do you want to be heroes?" Naruto and Menma thought about it deeply for a moment before explaining their dreams. Inari nodded. "You just want to be accepted because you're different. But why do you need to be a ninja to do that? Can't you do anything else? You could die." Naruto acknowledged this. "Yeah, we could die." Inari seemed confused. "So why do you try to do it? If heroes die and bad people win anyway, then why do you want to be heroes? Why do you want to save the world?" Naruto smiled. "Because I don't want to save the world. I just want to save one person at a time. I understand that it's a tall order to save an entire planet's worth of people. I know I can't do that alone. So if I can't save everyone, I'll save the ones I can. One person can make a difference, but when a bunch of people work together, they can accomplish anything." Inari just looked at him as if he were crazy. "You could still die though." Naruto chuckled a little. "Yeah, but I will have a lot of people to cry over me when I do. I would rather die early surrounded by love than die late in life and live alone. I'll leave behind a legacy of people who know that love is why we're here, to love and be loved. I learned early on when I had nothing that this was the meaning of life. The grand plan for everyone is to love and be loved. I was blessed to have a brother and he was my lifeboat in a sea of uncertainty. Anyone can be a hero, Inari. Anyone at all. All they have to do is choose love. Unconditional love that doesn't know limits. The love to be willing to die for someone else. That sort of love doesn't come around every day, and those who possess it are special people, and they can teach it to others." Inari felt tears come to his eyes as he saw within Naruto's the same eyes as Kaiza. What was this fool's mission? How could anyone choose to die for someone else? How could anyone sacrifice everything to be someone else's hero? Was this what it meant to be a hero? Was this what it meant to be alive? And in that moment, it was as if the stars aligned. Love. That was the answer. So many people had said those words over Inari's life, but he only now realized it. He was born into this world. Inari looked at Naruto. "You're my hero." Naruto smiled and patted the boy's head. "Love is the currency of the soul, but unlike money, even if you don't have any of your own, you can sure spend it on others, and that's the way it should be." The day after, as they began to leave for the bridge to guard it, Inari would hug Naruto goodbye. This was something that astounded both Tazuna and Tsunami. Inari had been emotionally shut down ever since the death of Kaiza, not even showing affection to his own mother, yet now he was hugging someone random. Something in this boy's life had changed. Something good. They began to leave where they watched the bridge being built. It was then that the dreaded moment arose, a final confrontation with Zabuza and his protege, Haku. Kakashi held out his hand. I will face Zabuza again. Naruto, Menma, you two face Haku. Sakura, you keep Tazuna and the other bridge workers safe. Each one nodded in understanding. Haku appeared there before them, his mask as intimidating as ever. Stand aside. I do not wish to hurt you, he said to them. Menma was ready, but Naruto began to wonder about this. Why? Why are you wanting to do this? Haku was silent for a moment. It's my job. It's a job. My master commands. Haku turned and pointed back at Zabuza. That man, he saved my life. I would die for him. Naruto felt his heart skip. He's your hero. Haku nodded. The streets of Kiri were not kind to me. After the Third Shinobi World War, Kekai Genkai like mine and my mother's ice release were feared. People with them were hunted and killed for being different. I was left alone on the streets to starve in the cold. The snow. Haku trailed off. The snow is beautiful, but no child should ever be left alone in it to die. It hurts. Then suddenly it doesn't, and you grow tired. That's called hypothermia. I thought it ironic that I would die amongst the very substance that I was hunted for being capable of creating. Naruto listened. Zabuza. Some call him a demon, but for me, he was my angel. He took me in and warmed me up and provided for me. Why did he do it? He didn't even know I was special. All I did was smile at him and he showed interest and took me in. That man is my hero. I would do anything to make him happy, and sadly right now that includes killing you. I'm sorry. Haku would suddenly burst in and attack, clashing his senbon with Menma's kunai. Menma was knocked back, skidding along the ground. Haku stopped and began to weave hand signs rather quickly. Ice release! Demonic mirroring ice crystals, he shouted as he suddenly formed a dome of ice mirrors. From all directions, senbon came in. Menma was okay due to his ability to utilize Tailed Beast chakra, but Naruto was not faring as well. He'd be struck by many of the senbon, crying as his leg went out from under him as the back of his knee was struck by one of the needles. Menma looked back and felt his rage boil to the surface. He would suddenly release a blast of chakra, melting all the mirrors at once, sending Haku flying back. Menma would turn around. Are you okay? Naruto nodded. I'm fine, just my leg. Menma then began pulling the senbon from his brother's body carefully and gently. He tossed them to the side. Stay here, I'll face him. Menma stood and went to face Haku. With his newfound strength and speed, it was beyond even Haku's level of attack, so the obvious advantage was on Menma's side. Menma would see an opportunity and raise his hand to strike Haku down, but Naruto would catch it. Stop, he'd cry out. Haku's not evil. Menma would then pull himself free. Good and evil aren't things you can think about in a fight to the death, Naruto. He's a threat. Where his moral compass points is irrelevant. Naruto gripped the arm with both hands. Stop. Menma looked down. Haku was defenseless now. He calmed. Fine, I won't kill him. But no sooner than he had said that was Haku up and moving. He saw Kakashi moving in for the final blow to kill Zabuza. Haku rushed forward. Naruto's hand reached out to grab Haku's, but his palm slipped and he missed. Before Kakashi could think, he had Haku sitting on the end of his arm. Haku coughed up blood with a slight smile, knowing that he protected his mentor. Naruto rushed over to grab Haku. Zabuza raised his blade to strike Kakashi down. Menma rushed out and tackled Zabuza. Naruto looked up at him. He died for you. You were going to cut him in half just to kill Kakashi-sensei. Zabuza scoffed. He's dead. He's not going to mind it. Kakashi was not exactly surprised by this, but he was angered by how frivolously he was treating the sacrifice of a friend. The battle continued until Kakashi managed to wound Zabuza. Naruto held Haku's body and closed his eyes. Naruto just looked down in sorrow as Menma looked to him. You gotta be tough, Naruto. This is the shinobi world. People die. At about that time, Gato and his men show up, threatening to finish what Zabuza and Haku failed to. But here comes the cavalry. Inari shows up with the villagers and they manage to drive off Gato's gang. Inari would rush over when he saw Naruto kneeling there. He would stop and see Haku. Is he... Naruto nodded, tears in his eyes. Inari looked up. Are you okay? Naruto nodded again. He fought to smile, but his attempts only betrayed how much sorrow there was in his heart. Inari looked down. Was this guy a hero? Naruto looked to Haku. Despite the side he was on, he had a pure heart, and he only did what he had to for Zabuza, who was the one who was hurting people. Naruto looked up to Inari. Yes, he was a hero. From there, Kakashi and the team prepared to leave, their mission successful. Inari would hug Naruto and tell him that he would be a hero in his village and remind people what the meaning of life is. Naruto smiles and hugs the boy back. Both seem to tear up a little as they know that this is goodbye, but this was exactly as Naruto had hoped it would be. Even though he was not the one still in this village, even though he was going away, he had left behind a legacy. Inari here would show the people what a true heroic love really is, and to make heroes out of everyone just as Kaiza once had. And so, with heavy hearts, they say farewell, though they promised to write, and Naruto promised to come see him whenever he could. They began to head home. Menma kept his eyes forward, but as Team 7 came to the village, they would soon realize that they were not the only ones. A lot of people were gathering at the village, and some of them weren't very good people. Unbeknownst to them, the Chunin exams were about to begin, and Team 7 would be soon caught up in it, and their lives would never be the same. Naruto, Menma, and Sakura sat at a little restaurant. It wasn't Ichiraku ramen, which was an unusual thing for Naruto and Menma, but they decided to try something else under Sakura's urging. She believed that it wasn't healthy to live off of only ramen, and thought that they should try to expand their horizons a little. As they sat there at the table on the outside of the restaurant, they were served their food. Sushi, it seemed. Various forms of it, with even one variant being cooked fish. Each received a small dish of soy sauce and something to drink. All the place sold to drink was sake, and that wasn't a deal breaker, as they did keep non-alcoholic on tap just in case. The owner seemed to believe that such food went best with the taste of sake, so that's all he served. Naruto and Menma looked at it. They seemed skeptical. Sakura was startled. Wait, don't tell me you've never eaten sushi before. Naruto smiled nervously as Menma spoke. We've never been keen on eating meat that wasn't cooked. Always heard it would make you sick. Sakura shook her head. Unbelievable. You live so close to one of the best sushi restaurants in the village, perhaps in the entire land of fire, and you've never once eaten it? They shook their heads. She sighed with exasperation. You two are hopeless. They began to eat, and as they did so, Naruto and Menma were astounded with how good it tasted. Sakura smiled. See? If you never try new things, you'll never find awesome stuff like this. Gotta leave your track every once in a while and explore. They continued to eat. It was then that Kakashi walked up to them, having just finished a meeting with the Hokage. Oh, this looks delicious. May I sit down? Of course, Kakashi-sensei. Please, sit down and have a meal with us. Menma raised a finger to the waiter to ask for one more order. As the food was brought, Kakashi seemed pleased. I just got done telling Lord Third about our mission to the Land of Waves, he said as he began to somehow eat without removing his mask. What did he say? Menma asked. Kakashi then continued. He said that he was very impressed by the strength and wisdom you showed on the battlefield and believes you three may be candidates for the exams. Sakura looked up at Kakashi from the corner of her eye, both surprised and a tad skeptical. Wait, for real? What are the exams? Naruto asked. Sakura looked back. You don't know? Menma mirrored her surprise. You don't know? Kakashi smiled. The Chunin exams. They're a set of tests that the villages hold every so often to test the strength and versatility of its genin. If the genin pass the tests and prove themselves to be the best of the best, or at the very least stand out from the pack, they'll be upgraded to Chunin, which is a class above genin. The mission we just accomplished was a Chunin level mission. That's what Chunin often find themselves doing. Since you completed your mission with high marks, the Hokage has decided to allow you, at this young age, to try out for the Chunin exams. Naruto and Menma seemed ecstatic about this new chance to prove themselves. But of course, this needs to be a team decision. You must each decide for yourselves if you want to take this test. But you must all be in agreement. Currently, the only silent card here is Sakura. He looked to her. So, what do you think? Do you have enough faith in your own abilities? In the abilities of your peers? Sakura sat back with a sigh and thought deeply on this. She looked up at the two boys before her. While they were excitable and reckless, it was undeniable that they had the skills to make it as Chunin. She herself, however, could she handle it? She had faith in herself, but she didn't want to put herself and her team in a position where they relied on her to do something that she couldn't do. So what should she do then? She wasn't the strongest shinobi, and in no way could she compare to any of her teammates. But at the same time, she didn't want to undersell herself. Physically, she may have lacked by comparison, but mentally she excelled. Her brain was sharper than any two-edged sword, and her mind thrived off of pressure. This would be a good experience for her, and at the very least, it would give her the motivation to increase her physical abilities. After this long moment of deliberation, she nodded. I think we would be passable candidates. Kakashi nodded. Then you should all be on your way. Sign up ends at sunset. This is the last day to join, so I would hurry off. Sakura stood, as did her peers. The trio walked down the road with Naruto sort of leading them, walking backwards as he talked. Can you believe it? Just a little over 2 weeks and we're already getting promoted. By this time next year we might even be Jonin. Sakura scoffed. Keep dreaming, Naruto. As they made their way in, they began to sign up, seeing the others who would join the exams. Worse still, those others were seeing them too. They were being stared at like fresh meat in a lion's den. It was then that Naruto noticed the other members of their old class. He ran up to them. "You guys are here too?" Hinata would grow flustered and cover her face. Shikamaru would look back. "I see you're also getting a shot at being a Chunin." Naruto nodded. He looked at the other members there and felt like he was going to have the time of his life. He signed up for the exams, as did the others on his team. That night, he went home with Menma and crawled into bed, all while Menma sat by the window, just looking out at the Hokage monument. It was always during the quiet that these thoughts would creep into his mind. Naruto continued to ramble on about their lucky situation. "We gotta get to sleep soon, though. We gotta be up early by the crack of dawn and to the site of the exams by about 7. He began to get situated. He saw his brother sitting on his bed, just looking out at the village. "Something on your mind, Menma?" Menma sat there. He had never really talked to Naruto about it. "I don't know. I just don't feel as excited as I should be." Naruto seemed confused. "What do you mean? You seemed really excited about this earlier. Don't you want to become a Chunin?" Menma looked back over the village. "I do, but something just feels off." Naruto stood and walked to Menma's bed and sat beside him, looking out over the village as well. "Off? Would you maybe like to talk about it? What's wrong?" Menma looked down for a moment. "I feel hollow, like I'm missing something, like none of this really matters at all. Don't you feel the same? Like nothing we'll ever do will even matter." Naruto couldn't really sympathize with this feeling because he didn't have it himself. "I don't follow. Why do you feel like this?" Menma sighed a little. "I just feel like even if I do become a shinobi, that I don't belong here." Naruto turned to face his brother. "You'll always belong here. You belong here with me. Don't ever feel like you don't belong." Menma looked over, a touch of melancholy in his eyes. "You don't belong here either. Neither of us do." Naruto was startled by these words for a moment, but then his shoulders relaxed and he opted to simply hug his brother. "We'll find our place in this world, Menma. I promise." The day after, they woke up bright and early. They put on their gear and made themselves look as cool as possible, going so far as to even add thin red paint lines around their eyes and down their cheeks. They wanted to look demonic. Most of those they would likely face were older than them, so they really needed to go all out to increase their intimidation factor. Once that was done, they ate a quick breakfast and made their way out to the building where the exams were to take place. Making their way in, they saw Sakura. They tapped her shoulder. She turned around and almost jumped out of her skin. "What the hell is wrong with your faces?" Naruto and Menma smiled. "Do we look frightening, Sakura-chan?" Sakura stood there and just looked them over. "Frightening isn't exactly what I would call it." Menma would look at her seriously. "Want us to do your face up too? That way we can look scary as a team." Sakura smiled. "No, I'd prefer not to ruin my image." To that, Naruto and Menma relented. All the while, to the side, Hinata watched with a slight smile, twiddling her thumbs as she stood as shy and stiff as always. Naruto noticed and waved to her, to which she blushed a little and waved back. Kiba noticed this and gave her a little nudge. "Go say hi." She shook her head. "I don't think that's a good idea." "I don't think you have much of a choice," Kiba said. "'Cause here he comes." Hinata almost freaked out. She turned back to hide behind Kiba, but the only thing standing there was Akamaru, who Kiba had left behind to support her. She looked around to see Kiba and Shino sort of hiding behind the Ino Shikacho trio, Kiba giving her a thumbs up. Akamaru climbed up on her shoulder. Naruto stepped up to her. "Hi, Hinata. Are you excited?" She nodded. "Yeah, a little nervous. All the people here are so intimidating." Naruto nodded. "Yeah, I think so too. That's why me and Menma did our faces up with all this paint. Gotta be scarier than the monsters." She smiled at his words. Naruto got an idea. "Hey, why don't I paint your face up too? I bet you'll be really intimidating if I get your face painted up like mine. Nobody'll dare mess with you then." Hinata seemed a little nervous, but she relented. Naruto began to put the paint on. It was then that Ibiki Marino would appear, the proctor of the first test. He would invite them deeper into the building to begin the exams. To the shock and surprise of the others, it was a written test. Many of the shinobi asked what math problems had to do with being a shinobi and why the questions had to be so hard. But the proctor offered them no excuse, telling them that if they couldn't pass this test, they didn't deserve to be Chunin. It was actually here that Sakura felt the most confident. These were high-level questions, but she knew the answers to many of them. She would begin writing them down as soon as the timer began. Menma, on the other hand, was startled by this. He was getting stressed because he didn't know any of the answers. He assumed that the way to do this was cheat, but how could he? He didn't have any dojutsu or ninjutsu that could help him see things that he normally couldn't, and it also didn't look like anyone else was going to help him. Sakura could see how big of a mess he was in, so she looked at Shino. "Hey," she whispered in his ear. "See Menma over there?" Shino looked over, his black glasses shimmering in the light as he followed her gaze. Sakura continued. "I need to get him this paper, but neither of us can get it over there because we don't have the proper means. Can I use your bugs?" Shino was silent for a moment. "What do I get in return?" A vein popped out of the side of Sakura's large forehead. "I'll take you out to eat when this is all over." Shino thought for a moment, and then released a small colony of bugs, which would then take the paper to Menma and exchange it for his blank page, which would return to her. "I expect gourmet," Shino stated coldly. All the while, Naruto himself was struggling. Hinata was sitting beside him. "I can use my Byakugan to help you, Naruto." Naruto shook his head. "That's not a good idea. I painted up your veins. The proctor will know if you activate them." Hinata smiled. "That's okay. Watch this." She accidentally, I said that in air quotes, knocks her pencil off the table and bends down to get it. While she does, she uses her Byakugan and gets a good view of the correct answers and begins to write them down on her paper. She lets Naruto peek, who writes the same down. Eventually, as time comes to an end, Ibiki says that they have a final question, which is worth more than enough points to pass, even if all the other answers are wrong. And furthermore, he tells them that if they don't answer this question, they must forfeit the exams. If they do take the test but get it wrong, they can kiss their dreams of reaching Chunin goodbye. Menma grows nervous, his toes curling as his body becomes more rigid, a drop of sweat forming on his brow above his wide eyes. He looks to Sakura, who seems nervous as well. They both look to Naruto though, who turns around and gives them a thumbs up. "Naruto must have a plan," Menma said. And so the three decide to take the final question, but to their surprise, the decision to answer the question at all was the correct answer. And with that, they pass this first test and move on. Naruto, Menma, and Sakura all seem very happy about that, as is Hinata, who was just glad to have been of help to her friend. Shino begins to leave. "Remember that you owe me for this." A shiver runs down Sakura's spine as he passes by. Menma asks her what that was all about, and she says not to worry about it. They make their way out to the second of 3 tests. This test is a complicated game of survival and capture the flag that will take place over the course of many days in the Forest of Death. The proctor for this one is Anko Mitarashi. She begins to explain the test. She informs them that you will be either given the Heaven or Earth Scroll. Your mission is to find one of the type of scrolls you did not receive and make it to the arena at the center of the forest. At no time are you permitted to open your scroll. She also lets them know that this is dangerous, that there will be fighting, and that, while they're not planning to let anyone die, there is a distinct possibility that death or irreparable bodily harm may occur. So she presents each of the genin with a waiver to sign. Upon signing it, they may begin the test. As soon as they enter the forest though, Naruto looks up at them. "You guys are gonna hate me." They look at him with curiosity. Naruto looks down. "I gotta use the bathroom." There's a shared sigh between Menma and Sakura. "Just hurry up. The longer we stay in one place, the more danger we'll be in." Naruto nods and then disappears into the forest. They wait there for a moment before the form of Naruto emerges from the brush. "Alright, I'm finished. Let's go." Together, Team 7 jumps into the trees and begins to make their way deeper into the woods. Menma stops and they all look around. "We gotta find an Earth Scroll." Naruto keeps his eye on the Heaven Scroll attached to Menma's belt. "Maybe I should hold the Heaven Scroll for a while. So I can use my skills to focus on defending the scroll while you guys go on the offense." Menma looks back. "Good idea." Sakura nods. Uncharacteristically insightful. Naruto scratches the back of his head nervously. "Well, you know what they say. A broken clock is right twice a day." They hand over the scroll, and as they go a little deeper, they come across another group of shinobi. Menma looks closely and sees that they possess an Earth Scroll. "Bingo. We found a target." Menma looks back. "Here's the plan. We stand in the cardinal directions. I'll go west, Sakura, you go east, and Naruto, you go north. We'll box them in. Once they're in, you guys throw 3 of these at them." He presents them with the smoke bombs. "Once we hit the ground, we'll rush them from the northwest, southeast, and northeast. Naruto will be in charge of grabbing the scroll. My signal will be a whistle. You guys ready?" They nod. They all get into position. Menma waits until he sees their targets in the right spot. He then whistles and throws the smoke bombs down at them. Only 6 of the 9 go off. As they rush down there, they're caught off guard by a third shinobi who still had a clear line of sight on them. He would attack them and drive Menma and Sakura out. The enemy team then flee from them. Menma grows very frustrated. "Naruto," he calls out. "What are you doing?" There was no answer. "Naruto, get out here!" Still no answer. There's not a sign of Naruto anywhere. They begin to investigate and find a little letter. They read it. "Neener, neener, neener. L plus ratio plus bozo plus fake teammate plus your mom." Menma crumples the paper up. "Damn it, I knew something seemed off. That wasn't our Naruto, it was just a decoy. They took our scroll." Suddenly, Naruto showed up. Tit for tat. Menma pulls a kunai. Naruto grows nervous. "Whoa, careful brother, it's me." Menma stands there. "If that's true, prove it." Naruto thinks for a moment. "Don't feel hollow. You belong here, right beside me." Menma lowers his kunai. "Where the hell were you?" Naruto stands there for a moment, his face turning red. I got attacked by a shinobi while I was peeing. He took my form, and I assume he went to cause you trouble. Sakura sighed. This wouldn't have happened if you had peed before we came here. Naruto suddenly tosses them an earth scroll. Menma catches this. Huh? Naruto smiles mischievously. While he was fooling my teammates and stealing our scroll, I was busy fooling his teammates and stealing theirs. Menma laughed. You crafty bastard. You see, this is why I love you. Naruto posed a little. And here I was thinking it was because of my good looks. So Team 7 lost their scroll of heaven, but they gained a scroll of earth, meaning they broke even out of pure good fortune, and so they continued their test. It wasn't long after this that they found themselves the subject of another attack, one from a hidden grass shinobi named Shiore, who possessed a not-so-subtle creepiness. She demanded that they hand over their scroll, but neither Naruto or Menma were willing. It was then that they were hit with the weight of her killing intent. Naruto and Menma froze, and poor Sakura even passed out. In a moment of pure fear, Menma awakened his initial Jinchuriki cloak to overcome Shiore's killing intent with one of his own. He rushed at the shinobi, which took her by surprise. Naruto had yet to awaken his own, but he, all the same, attempted to help, as the two shinobis fighting cancelled out each other's fear. Menma clashed his blades with Shiore, going so far as to slash her face, to reveal it to be fake. Suddenly, the woman ripped the remnants of the false face off to reveal the face of a middle-aged man of pale complexion. Orochimaru introduces himself and explains that he is just one of many interested parties who would like to make use of the Nine Tails' power. Menma takes this to be a threat and would suddenly rush forward even faster to slash at him, but instead Orochimaru strikes Menma's stomach, causing the boy to cough out, doing everything in his power to keep from puking. Orochimaru then proceeds to bite Menma's neck, implanting him with a curse mark. He steps away. There. That should give you but a small taste of the power I can grant you. Let's see how long it'll be until you come running back to me. Orochimaru then disappears. Menma falls to his knees and grips his neck. He cries out in utter agony as Naruto runs over. He holds his brother. What's wrong? He sees the mark on Menma's neck and begins to press a cloth to the wound, which only makes Menma cry out louder. Sakura shows up to help. She begins attempting to perform first aid. This helps very little in the long run though, and Menma eventually passes out. Naruto freaks out. Oh no, he's dead! Sakura shakes her head. No, he's still got a pulse. He's in bad condition though. We've got to find a safe place for him to recover. They find a small area where Menma can rest. Sakura looks him over. He's burning up. We need something to cool him off with. We need water. She pulls out a scroll and summons a bowl and a cloth. Naruto, can you go fill this with water? Naruto picks up the bowl and rushes off to the forest where he finds a river of cool, fresh water. He begins to gather some. He stops when he hears a sound nearby. He looks about and sees nothing. He's got no time to waste, so he carefully rushes off with the water and brings it back to Sakura. She begins to take the rag and cool it down with water before dabbing it on Menma's head. Naruto looks down. What should we do? Should we try to call off the mission? Sakura thinks for a moment. It might be a good idea. Naruto nods. He stands and begins to step out of the hollow. I'll go to the edge of the zone and try to get medical attention for him. The moment he steps out though, he notices 3 shinobi waiting for him. Team Dosu, a team from the Hidden Sound Village. What do you want? He asks. You want our scroll? He pulls it out and shows them. He throws it to the ground. Take it. We don't need it anymore. We quit. Dosu begins to chortle nefariously. No, we're not here for the scroll, but for Lord Orochimaru. You see, he seems to favor that brother of yours, and we don't like that. So we're gonna remove him from the board to make way for ourselves. Naruto's had just about enough of this. I'm tired, he says as a red aura begins to leak from his body. I'm tired of people always targeting me and my brother, just because we're vessels of the Nine Tails. If you want this power, then come and get it. Naruto begins to fight against this group, and while his power is leagues above each individual member, their overall skill and teamwork is capable of driving him back. Naruto is growing winded, but that's when Team 8 appears. Kiba starts with his Fang over Fang technique, catching Team Dosu by surprise. Shino, from a distance, begins to use his bugs to attack them. It's then that Hinata comes in with her gentle fist technique, smashing the ground with her hands, screaming like a maniac. The look on her face, the actually catch most of Team Dosu off guard and push them back for a moment, but they slowly recover and begin to attack again. It's suddenly that Menma wakes up, a massive magenta aura flying towards the heavens as he activates his curse mark on top of his Jinchuriki cloak. He comes out like a madman, as terrifying as a demon, half of his body covered in black markings and his eyes resembling that of a fox. In pure battle rage, Menma drives off the enemy, but it doesn't stop there. He turns back and begins to attack Team 8. Naruto gets between him and them. Naruto bounces back and rushes over and puts a knee into the side of Menma's head. When Menma hits the ground, Naruto lifts him by the collar. Menma! Menma, calm down! He shakes him. Menma pushes him off and stands, ready to attack Naruto. As he rushes forward to strike at his brother, Sakura suddenly rushes between them. Menma sees this and instinctively comes straight to a stop, only hitting Sakura's open arms as she hugs him. "Calm down, Menma. You're safe now. You're safe." Menma stands there, and suddenly his form deactivates as he falls into her arms. Sakura kneels down, holding him. Naruto walks over and kneels down as well. "Is he okay?" Sakura nods. "He doesn't seem to have a fever anymore." Naruto looks to her. "What the hell happened to him?" Sakura shrugs. "No clue." Kiba then picks up Team 7's scroll. "Oh look, an Earth scroll. We could use one of these." Hinata then snatches it from him and walks back over to Naruto. She bows her head and presents him with the scroll. Naruto looks at her for a moment. "Thanks, Hinata." She blushes a little. "I'm glad to help." So after a time, they manage to get Menma back up and moving. They ask him if he feels like he should just call it quits, but he refuses, stating that he doesn't want to risk them failing because of him. So they move on, and miraculously, they happen to find the group that had previously stolen their Heaven Scroll and get a little payback. After that, they decide to make their way to the stadium, where they find themselves one of the last to finish before the deadline. It's here that they meet Iruka, who informs them that Kakashi couldn't make it because he's dealing with something else at the moment. Sakura and Naruto tell Iruka what happened, and they decide to interview Menma. After this, it's revealed that there will be a group of exhibition matches to help narrow out the field before the finals, in which they will fight the winners from the previous half. These matches will be one-on-one, no teamwork. It's then that Sakura convinces Menma to give up on the exams due to his injuries. He accepts this as he knows that it won't harm his team's chances of becoming Chunin. Menma is out of the exams and has his curse mark resealed by Kakashi and proceeds to rest for a while. Naruto and Sakura continue on, where Sakura ends up in a battle against Ino, an old friend. Absolutely nothing changes here, so it's not worth mentioning. Naruto battles against Kiba. As they begin the match, Naruto stands there with a look of determination on his face. He smiles. "I just wanted to thank you and your team for what you did back in the Forest of Death. If it hadn't been for you, we might have all died." Kiba smiles and lets out a humph. "We only stopped because Hinata asked us to. You guys would be roadkill now if it weren't for her." Naruto takes this information and nods. "I guess that means I don't have to feel bad when I kick your ass." They begin to fight. Kiba uses his Ninken, Akamaru, and fights in a very feral way. Naruto goes down onto all fours as well as his initial cloak activates. "The Fox and the Hound," Kiba says with a smile. "I always hated that story." They rush at each other. While Naruto gets a good boost of power, he is still only about even with Kiba, who himself is close to Naruto's level. The two clash, and Naruto is knocked back by a second attack from Akamaru. Naruto summons a shadow clone to even the playing field. However, only after making use of his transformation technique does Naruto gain the upper hand. Getting behind Kiba, he manages to put a full power strike into the back of his head, knocking him back and into a wall, knocking him out. Naruto is named the winner. After this, Naruto goes to watch the next match. This one's between Hinata and Neji Hyuga, a duel between two members of the same clan. Neji is highly favored to win, and even a few people are asking Hinata to step out of the battle and just forfeit, but she's determined to not give up, just as Naruto never gives up. And so she begins her battle, with Naruto cheering her on from the stands. As they stand there, Neji's face grimaces in disgust. "What's that on your face? Some farce to scare me?" She stands there silently, her hand pushed out in front of her, her other hand close to her body for defense. Neji continues. "No matter. I'm going to prove today why the main branch is no better than the secondary branch." The two battle, and to say it's brutal doesn't do the battle any justice. Neji does not hold back. In fact, he seems to attempt to go too far just out of spite, and he ends up putting Hinata in the infirmary. She lays there in the bed, resting after having her injuries treated. There's a knock at the door. She perks up and looks over. It was Naruto. Her face flushes immediately. Naruto walks in and sits down with a bowl of water. He takes a rag and slowly cleans the makeup he put on her face off. "I thought you did well today," he said as he cleans the red off gently. She seems to speak humbly, saying that she didn't do much in the face of Neji. Naruto shook his head. "You didn't lose, you know." He then begins to clean the makeup off his face too. Naruto looked to her. "You won that fight because your opponent wasn't really Neji. Your opponent was the old Hinata and you beat her. You're better than you were before, so that's a victory." She looks away to hide the tears coming to her eyes. She's so flattered. Naruto sits there for a moment. "I just wanted to congratulate you on that victory. I hope you feel better soon. Next month, when the rest of the matches continue, I want you in my corner cheering me on." She looked back at him and nodded. "Yes, of course. I'd love to." Naruto would then stand and walk out, giving her the privacy she deserved. As he stood by the outside of her door and looked back, he felt his heart flutter a bit. He had never noticed her before, but now that he realized that she was everywhere, had been everywhere in his past. He could feel himself crushing hard on her. That was something Menma noticed as he walked through the infirmary. "There you are," Menma said. "I was thinking we could go out for a celebratory dinner. Kakashi's buying. A dinner to celebrate your victory against Kiba." Naruto nodded. "Sounds great, let's go." And so they went out to eat and had the time of their life. But as they walked home, Naruto bumped into a man wearing a red haori, his hair white and long like the mane of a lion. And within Naruto's heart, he knew that his destiny and the destiny of that man would intertwine. How or why, he didn't know. He just knew that that would happen. That night, as they got ready for sleep, Naruto could only look at the ceiling, as did Menma. Their minds were on two very different emotions. Naruto's mind was on the concept of love and fulfillment, while Menma could only think about hatred and hollowness. They soon drifted off to sleep. And as they did, Menma stepped into his subconscious before the cage of Yin. He stepped forward. "Hey, it's been a while." "I don't like it," the massive beast said. Menma hadn't been here 20 seconds, and already Yin was complaining. "Don't like what?" The massive beast looked over. "The mark on your neck. I don't like it. I don't like you using any power but mine." Menma nodded. "That's why I had it locked away, but we can't remove it. We can choose to disable it though." Yin thought for a moment. "Perhaps, but maybe you could use it. Use it on top of my power. What matters most right now is growing stronger. Once we're strong enough, we can take the vengeance you want." Menma thought for a moment. "I don't know if I want vengeance anymore." Yin came to the gate, pressing his head to the bars. "Don't tell me you've chickened out." Menma looked back towards Kurama and turned his back to him. "Naruto's happy. I don't want to ruin that." Yin then eyed him from his cage. "If Naruto's truly your brother, then he won't stand in your way. He won't try to stop you from avenging yourself." Menma took a breath and sighed. "I think I would rather just let Naruto be happy. Thanks, but no thanks." He then began to walk out. "You can't just leave," Yin cried out. Yin then sighed and went back to the darkness of his cage. "He'll be back. He always comes back." As the exams continued and a free month of respite was given, the trio continued to do their thing. Naruto and Menma were working really hard together to grow stronger. It was true that Menma wasn't going to be in the Chunin exams any further due to his curse mark, but he didn't mind that. He had suddenly not cared as much about becoming a Chunin. What mattered to him was Naruto and his happiness, so the two boys continued to grow stronger. As they trained at a park, a particular man eating a popsicle watched them. Something about them was familiar, particularly with the blonde one. It was as if he had seen him before, but where? As their chakra flared though, he sensed something within their chakra that startled him. It was the same as the tailed beasts he had felt in the war. These two children, their chakra was nostalgic, as if he was sensing Minato and Kushina in the middle of a sparring match, but slightly different. And then it struck him. These two are Minato and Kushina's kids! He stood up and walked to them. At first, they seemed skeptical of this man, but when he explained to the two of them that he was the mentor of their father and that he knew about their tailed beasts, they eased up a little. Jiraiya was his name, and he decided to train them. And upon asking Kakashi if he could, he was given full approval. It was here that he would teach them to use their tailed beasts. Menma was obviously far more skilled at this, as he had used it far longer than Naruto, but Naruto was no slouch. Together, he taught them not only that, but toad summoning, and even how to form a Rasengan. But the month was short, so they couldn't learn anything more than that in the short time they had. Once they accomplished this training, they were free to rest in preparation for the final part of the exam, where Menma would be cheering Naruto on. Together, the two boys sat with the elderly man and looked out at the Hokage's monument. "What was our dad like?" Naruto asked. Menma looked over at Naruto for a moment, as if he had just realized what Menma wanted to ask, but had been too afraid to. Jiraiya gazed at the statue. "That stone face does him no justice. Your father was a very expressive man. He was always smiling or laughing. He was very excitable and a bit of a knucklehead, but he was also full of heart. I can see different parts of him inside the both of you. Menma, you took the prodigious nature he had, and Naruto, you took the fun-loving and kind part of him. And your mother, there was just so much fire in her. That fire I also sensed strongly in Menma, a sense of justice. But she was also very gentle and understanding too, just like you, Naruto. She could make friends wherever she went, and people always looked up to your father no matter where he went. He just had that level of charisma about him. You two are a perfect mixture of both your parents. It's funny, I got to see Minato grow up, and now he's gone and that hurts. But I'm blessed to see his two beloved children grow up too." Eventually, the time for rest and training would come to an end. It would be time to return to the Chunin exams. Menma would watch his brother from the stand and wave. Naruto waves back, and then he turns to Neji, obviously the one favored to win. Neji looks at him as if he's nothing. Naruto looks back at him. "I'm gonna make you pay for hurting Hinata so needlessly." Neji scoffs. "As if you could ever do anything to me." The battle begins and Naruto's careful, especially around the gentle fist technique, but he knows that he can't just fight from a distance. He needs to get closer if he's going to do any lasting damage. So he employs shadow clones to probe the area and finds Neji's technique to be close to an absolute defense. But he keeps probing until he finds that one chink in the armor, a small area from behind where he can strike. He sets up a few feints and then he makes his move, planting a Rasengan right into Neji's back, which sends him into a wall and defeats him. Naruto stands there trying to process the fact that he just won. The crowd goes silent for a moment as they did not expect this underdog victory. Menma looks around, realizing that they wanted Naruto to fail. Suddenly, Hinata pounds the side of the stadium wall as she hangs over the side with excitement. Naruto smiles. The rest of the Genin in her team, as well as Team 7, and even the other teams outside of Konoha's team begin to cheer. Naruto smiles and waves to them. After the battle, Naruto goes to the back to have lunch. Hinata comes in and asks if she may sit down. Naruto clears her a place off the bench. "I was very impressed with how you beat Neji, Naruto," she said. He smiles and scratches the back of his head. "Thanks. I just kept remembering how he intentionally hurt you, and I felt like I couldn't be stopped." Hinata giggles. "Naruto, can I tell you something?" He looks to her seriously. "Sure, what is it?" She blushes a little. "I've always liked you." There's silence for a few moments before Naruto speaks. "I like you too." She looks at him. "Really?" He nods. "I had never noticed it before, but now I sort of feel fuzzy when I look at you." She seemed flustered. "I feel fuzzy too." He offered her some of his lunch and the two just sat there and snacked together. As time passed, the exhibitions continued to occur until finally what seemed like the final match. Naruto versus Gaara. Naruto walked out to meet Gaara in the arena. One look at this boy and Naruto knew something just wasn't right. He felt so cold, so dark, so evil, as if his gaze was enough to mortally wound you. It felt like 1,000 hot daggers cast into his chest just looking into this boy's eyes. He got into a defensive position. All the while, Gaara smiled, realizing that he'd already dealt a blow to Naruto's mind without the battle having even started. This gave him the advantage. As it started, Gaara sent his sand at him in waves. Naruto skillfully dodged, but Gaara was still sending attacks. The speed of these attacks was taxing on Naruto's body. He was dodging them, yes, but the speed at which he had to move, the angles he had to contort, and the general lack of a break between attacks let him know that he couldn't keep this up forever. He needed another idea. Remembering how he beat Neji, he summoned shadow clones to, at the very least, draw some of the fire. This worked. Now that there were more Narutos to hit, Gaara's attention was divided between them. This gave Naruto just a little breathing room. The best thing about clones is that they were self-automated. They were exactly as the name implied, clones. They included body, mind, and spirit. They all knew what to do and did it without direction. These clones on occasion would grow brave and attempt to attack Gaara straight out only to be destroyed. Gaara, like Neji, possessed an absolute defense, and this time it seemed that he couldn't break it. Not like Neji. There was no blind spot. It was all the same thing, a sand barrier. Then he realized that Gaara couldn't see through the sand barrier, so he was wrong. This didn't lack blind spots. The entire sand shield was a blind spot. The shield only reacted when Naruto struck it, only when he gave himself away. This meant that Gaara was vulnerable inside the shield, but how could Naruto get inside? The only possible way was to break through. He could try going underground, but Naruto was not skilled in earth release, and so such a technique seemed out of Naruto's reach. What he needed was to smash the sand barrier, but how? The sand was hard enough to stop Naruto, but soft enough to absorb concussive force. He needed something more. But what? All the while, Rasa watched from the box with great interest. Not particularly because he was impressed, but because he knew that the time to release the One Tail was at hand. See, Rasa was not truly Rasa. He was Orochimaru, and he was planning to use Gaara to begin the Konoha Crush. Meanwhile, Naruto had an idea. He formed a Rasengan. He let his clones keep attacking the sand sphere, drawing Gaara's attention. Naruto then rushed forward with his Rasengan in hand, pushed his hand out, and smashed the orb as hard as he could into the shield, causing it to explode. The shield was cracked, but it remained up. Naruto took a step back and watched, slightly disappointed. Suddenly, the sand shield dropped and Gaara fell to his knees, coughing up blood. Naruto then realized that his Rasengan had caused internal damage to Gaara, a side effect of the rotation. That was a score. He now knew how to deal with the shield. All it would take would be a few more Rasengan and Gaara would be down for the count. But then, something unprecedented happened. Rasa gave a signal. Gaara saw it and he suddenly transformed into the One Tail. He began to wreck the stadium. Naruto stepped back in horror to see what was happening. "We're allowed to do that? I was never told we could do that. That's cheating!" Menma jumped over the edge and ran to Naruto's side. The two of them stood there staring at the monster before them. The Anbu were appearing in the stadium, trying to help people escape. Naruto looked to Menma. "How are we gonna defeat that?" Menma held out his fist for a bump. "We're going to do it together." Naruto extended his hand and bumped his brother's fist. Together they entered their version 1 forms and got down on all fours, ready to attack. They waited for a moment and then suddenly burst out towards the beast. As they ran up its body, Menma spoke. "Gaara is still attached to this thing. He looks like he went to sleep. If we can wake him, maybe we can stop the jutsu." Naruto looked to his brother and nodded. The two raced up as spikes came out of the sandy body in an attempt to kill them, or at the very least knock them off. They skillfully dodged and made their way up. Once they reached a certain height, Menma found his hands and feet getting pulled into the sand. Naruto looked down. Menma cried out for him to keep going, but Naruto rushed back and began to pull Menma free. As he did though, Naruto found his own feet getting pulled in. With all of his strength, he threw Menma into the air toward Gaara. Suddenly, one of Shukaku's arms came in and knocked Naruto away. He fell from the beast and smashed into the ground. Menma saw this and grew even more determined. Making it up to the top of the beast, he saw Gaara there. He came down quickly and punched Gaara square in the nose. Gaara would awaken with a start as the sand covering his body began to fall apart. They both fell to the ground. Gaara lay there for a time as Anbu agents came to take him into custody. At the same time, Jiraiya was out defeating Orochimaru's snakes, and Hiruzen managed to seal up Orochimaru's arms at the cost of his own life. Menma turned around and walked to Naruto. He knelt down beside him. "Hey, are you okay?" Naruto's eyes opened. "Yeah, I just got a massive headache." Menma took a look at him. "You might have a concussion. Are you okay to stand?" Naruto nodded and began to rise from the ground. As they began to make their way out, they found Sakura and Hinata waiting for them. "Are you guys okay?" Sakura asked. Menma nodded. "Naruto got jostled around a little, but I think he'll be okay." Naruto nodded too. They waited around a little with the rest of the students. Naruto was checked out by a medical nin and was determined to have a concussion, but they said he would be fine with some rest. They sheltered in place until it was determined that it was safe enough to go home. After debriefing and explaining to the intel team what happened, Naruto and Menma were allowed to go. They began to head out with Sakura and Hinata. "So, what do you guys want to do?" Sakura stretched. "I'm considering just going home and taking a nap. Today was rough. I just want it to be over." Hinata nodded. "I was thinking of a bubble bath." Naruto seemed disappointed. "Sad. I was hoping you guys would want to hang out a little." Sakura laughed. "It's fine, Naruto. We can always do so later." As they walked, they began to get some pretty bad looks from the villagers. Menma looked around and felt a scowl coming over his face. "We helped save the village from a tailed beast, and instead of being grateful, they just look like they hate us more." Naruto shrugged it off. "Just forget it. What they think doesn't matter." Or that's what Naruto said, but slowly, when they started to surround the two boys, it became apparent that what these people thought did matter. Sakura looked around. "Maybe we should go another way." The villagers began yelling at them, cursing them, and calling them the demon foxes. It seemed that what Gaara had done and the entirety of the Konoha Crush had awakened bad memories. They began throwing trash at them. Hinata seemed a little frightened by this. "You guys can stay at the Hyuga clan compound tonight." Sakura agreed. "Yeah, you guys shouldn't be alone right now." Menma was furious at the gall of these people. He kept his cool though when Naruto put a hand on his shoulder. "It's okay. Let's just go with Hinata." They turned to leave. The crowd continued to throw things at them as they walked away. "I don't like this, Naruto. Even though we saved them, they're treating us like the enemy. What do we have to do to get even a little bit of acknowledgement?" Naruto shrugged. "It's possible that we may never get any acknowledgement. But what's important is that we continue to..." Suddenly, a brick hit Naruto in the back of the head. He fell forward and hit the ground. "Naruto!" Sakura shouted. She lifted him up as Hinata stepped between them and the crowd, readying her gentle fist to fend off any more projectiles as they came. Menma lowered to Naruto's level and tried to hold him up, but felt warmth. He pulled his hand back. Blood! Sakura looked up at Menma. Menma stared at this with his hand, and suddenly he felt something in him snap. His black curse mark was beginning to spread across his body as the chakra of the Nine Tails also spread. Sakura looked at him. "Menma?" He looked at her with slits in his eyes and such ferocity that Naruto swore she heard a fox's roar. Menma began to grunt as his body began to steam. Sakura then looked to Hinata. "Quickly, help me move Naruto!" Hinata walked over and gripped Naruto's feet and they began to pull him away. Menma let out a yell as a purple chakra covered his body. He'd just entered version 2 and his cloak spread out like a violet liquid across his flesh, barely leaving him recognizable. He turned to the villagers who by this time were cautiously silent, and without a moment's hesitation he rushed them. There were screams and blood, and Sakura was hardly able to believe what she was seeing. Menma! He went about systematically killing each one of them. They had drawn the blood of his brother, and now he would bathe the streets in theirs. As the time came that there were none left, Menma sat there. He was floating in darkness, angry darkness, hovering between the palms of the Ninetales' hands, its evil smile looking down upon him. That's good. That's good. Slaughter them all. Make them regret treating you as they have. Suddenly, Menma saw a light and heard a voice. Menma! The voice of Sakura called out. Menma, help us! The voices grew louder. Menma, Naruto's not breathing, help us! Suddenly, the version 2 cloak began to pull from his flesh, leaving him steaming. He cried out as he reverted to his prior form. Despite how hot it was, there was no sign that Menma had been hurt. It seemed that the Ninetales had protected his body from the danger. Menma sat there and turned around. He saw Naruto laying there. He rushed over. It was true, he wasn't breathing. Menma couldn't find a pulse. He lay Naruto flat on his back and angled up his head. No! Damn it, no! Please, you can't die! He began chest compressions. He kept this up until the medical nin came to their aid. Thankfully, Naruto's heart was able to be restarted, but the medical nin had no clue as to how much damage had been done to his nervous system. After checking him out, they concluded that there had been some damage done to the frontal lobe, and that his brainstem had taken the brunt of the blow from the brick. Naruto was placed into a medically induced coma in hopes that he might recover. Kakashi would eventually show up at the hospital and see Menma there, covered in blood, none of it his own. He would walk up to him. Are you okay? Menma stood and looked in at Naruto. They hurt him. Really bad. The doctors don't know if he'll ever wake up. Kakashi looked in. We've just gotta have faith. Menma continued to look on his brother. I snapped. You can't just keep beating a dog into a corner like this. You know that what you did will cause people to hate you more, right? Menma stood there and sighed. Maybe they should hate us. And maybe I should hate them. Suddenly, he heard 2 clicks. He turned around to Kakashi, who had just put handcuffs on him. What are you doing? Kakashi looked at him. I'm sorry, but you're under arrest. It's my job as a shinobi of this village to arrest you. Menma growled. And what of your job as our guardian? As our mentor? Kakashi didn't respond. He just stepped back and let the Anbu take him. He would be sent to a holding cell while they decided what to do with him. It was Danzo's belief that they should have his tailed beast removed, but the council sought to wait a little while for deliberation. Menma just sat there for a time, thinking about it. He was in a cell right across from Gaara, who had the most twisted grin on his face. A grin at the irony of it. Menma sat there. In his mind, Yin spoke. Do you see now? Menma merely nodded. Yin continued. You forsook your hatred so your brother could be happy. And now, because of that, he's laying brain dead in a bed in that hospital. And you, Konoha's hero, sitting in a cell, waiting for your execution date. Perhaps my next Jinchuriki will be more willing to listen to my advice. I want to destroy it. Yin stopped when he heard those words. He looked at Menma, who stood there, head hanging down. What did you say? Menma raised his head again, his eyes full of hatred. I want to destroy it. I want to destroy Konoha. Yin smiled. That's good. But sadly, they tightened the seal on me. Unless you can get out on your own, I cannot help you. Menma, back in reality, sat there in his straitjacket in the dark. But suddenly, outside of his cell, there was a group of shinobi, each with blood on their hands, both figuratively and literally. This is truly a shame. Lord Orochimaru really wished to see you. He thought that you and he could help each other, but seems like you're slated to die. Menma looked up at them with a cold look of hatred. Have you come to simply mock me? Or do you plan on springing me? The Sound 4 each smiled. Intelligent. If we let you out, would you come quietly, or would you struggle? Menma scoffed, then smiled. Anything's better than this cell. Just get me out of here. And with that, they sprung Menma from prison, and they made their way out towards Orochimaru's base. As time passed, Naruto's eyes would eventually open. He looked around. The nurse went to get a doctor. The doctor came in and leaned over the bed to look at him. Mr. Uzumaki, can you hear me? Naruto opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. The doctor held out a calming hand. It's okay. No need to speak. Anything could be a response right now. He began to examine him. It seemed Naruto was on the fast track to recovery. The doctor sat down. All right. Now that you're awake, there are some things we ought to talk about. Try not to be alarmed. You're safe. He picked something up and brought it to Naruto. Naruto looked into it to see an image of a blonde-haired teenager laying in bed. He had to be 16? No, older than that. At first, Naruto was confused as to why he was showing him a picture of a teenage boy, but then Naruto suddenly realized it wasn't a picture, it was a reflection. Naruto's eyes widened. The doctor spoke. "You've missed quite a lot, Naruto. You were struck in the back of the skull by a blunt object. That, coupled with your previous head injury, caused you to enter cardiac arrest. We were able to restart your heart, but you had severe damage. We put you into a coma, one you didn't wake up from when we removed you from anesthesia. We were afraid that you would never awaken, but now you have." Naruto looked at the reflection again and grunted to clear his throat. He spoke. How long?" Naruto looked at the nurse, who revealed herself to be an older Sakura Haruno, someone who'd been watching over him the entire time. "Naruto, you've been out for 2 years. Naruto nearly freaked out, but she calmed him. It's okay. You're fine." He seemed to calm down a little. "Where's Menma?" Naruto began to go through the physical therapy to help him regain his lost functions in his coma. The first thing they needed to do was get his muscular structure back up to snuff. This meant helping him exercise and even giving him some controlled steroids to help him at least get back to square one. During this time, he was boiling on the fact that Menma had truly defected. He couldn't believe it. But then again, he also had a hard time believing that Menma had gone on a rampage and killed 20 people. Or so he thought. The more he ruminated on the idea, the more he came to realize that Menma had always been on the verge of splitting. He recalled all of their talks they had about how he felt empty. And now, after everything, he was a fugitive and a highly wanted criminal. Kakashi even came to him and apologized for his role in this, saying that if he had been there for them, maybe they wouldn't be in the situation that they were. Naruto tried to comfort his mentor by telling him that everything was okay, and that he couldn't be expected to be everywhere all the time. But Kakashi stated that he was their mentor and guardian, and because of his failure, this all happened. He stated that if he had simply used a shadow clone that day to walk them home, none of this would have happened. Eventually, Naruto got his body back into working order and was released from the hospital. He returned to his and Menma's home to see that it hadn't been touched since the Chunin exams. It was the oddest feeling in the world to see how much things had changed, but then how much they didn't change. Eventually, Jiraiya would visit him. Naruto would welcome him in. Jiraiya would sit down at the table. "Naruto, Menma is..." Naruto would continue his sentence. "Yeah, he defected. I know." Jiraiya shook his head. "No, Menma is planning to destroy all of Konoha. He's been training with Orochimaru." Naruto was surprised. Destroy Konoha?" Jiraiya nodded. "The scariest thing is, now that he's been training with Orochimaru and is in possession of the Nine Tails, well, he can do it. But that leads me to this. You're the only one who can stop him." Naruto sat there. "How can you ask me to fight my own brother?" Jiraiya sat forward. "Because you're the only one with a tailed beast in the village capable of it. Your Nine Tails matches his in every way, but you need to learn to control it. And then, I plan to teach you something that can help you surpass the curse mark of heaven that Menma possesses. Another way to absorb nature energy." Naruto sat there and lay his head on the table, covering the back of his head with his hands. "So much has changed. I went to sleep one day and I wake up the next and suddenly I'm 16 and my best friend, my brother, is public enemy number 1 and I'm expected to bring him to justice? How can you ask this of me?" Jiraiya sat there. "I'm not asking you to defeat Menma. I'm asking you to save him. You're the only one who can. He left the village because how they treated you. If anyone can bring him back, it's you." Naruto thought about it. Jiraiya leaned forward. "If you need the motivation, remember, you're training to save your brother, not kill him." Naruto nodded. And so, he immediately got his gear together and set off with Jiraiya to train. During this time, Jiraiya had him steadily bringing his strength back up to the level it was before he'd been put into a coma, and eventually beyond. There were some things that Naruto had to learn all over again, as there had been some brain damage sustained from the coma, but Naruto was slowly growing stronger. And eventually, his drive and motivation to save Menma led him to becoming far stronger than he had ever been before. His strength of will helped him to increase his control over the Nine Tails, but eventually Naruto seemed to hit a rock in his training, and so he was sent to Mount Myoboku to continue his training there. There he trained under Fukasaku to learn Sage Mode, but he seemed to have a hard time with this. "What's wrong with you?" Fukasaku asked. "This is the 3rd time today you've almost gone over the limit and killed yourself. What's the problem?" Naruto sat there for a second. "Menma, he's my brother, and I don't want to fight him." Fukasaku listened to him. "Maybe you won't have to. Have you thought about that?" Naruto didn't make eye contact. Fukasaku spoke. "We're making you strong, Naruto. Not so you can kill him, but so you don't have to." Naruto looked away. "Everything's just moving so fast. Last memory I have was the tuning exams. We were going home to have our favorite ramen and celebrate. And now I wake up and there's a new face on the Hokage monument, and I'm already almost an adult. I don't know how to make heads or tails of it. Fukasaku sighed. That's your issue. You're thinking about what was and what will be too much. You're bouncing around time in your own head and it's taking you out of the moment. Listen, I know it can be easy just to wonder about what happened, the things you missed and the battles you'll face in the future. But you need to realize that you have no control over those things. So the best thing for you to do is live on and adapt to the new world you found yourself in. Don't lose focus. Worry about changing the things you can, not the things you can't. So forget about your battle with Menma. This moment, however, is knowable, and the better you learn and the stronger you get in this moment, the better off you'll be when your battle with Menma comes. And when it does come, maybe, just maybe, you'll have the strength to pull him out and save him from himself, and save the village. Naruto nodded and continued to focus. After some time, he felt he had grown far stronger and was now capable of utilizing Sage Mode. This should give you the edge that you need, Fukasaku said. Go on, save your brother. And with that, Naruto returned to Jiraiya, who brought him home. Naruto sat there. Should I try looking for Menma? Jiraiya shook his head. We've been looking for Orochimaru for years and still haven't found him. We know he'll come here when he's finished with his training, and when he does, you need to be here to stop him. And after this, Naruto found himself wandering the village alone at night. It had been around this area where he'd been struck by the brick, and this whole thing had gone south. The village had changed a little in the 2 years he'd been under, but not too much. Ichiraku Ramen was still the same. He stepped in from the darkness of night to find Teuchi. This man was a hard worker, and every time he had ever seen Teuchi, he was always working. He had once asked him why he was always working and why he didn't go do things he liked. The man simply responded that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, and right now he was proving just as such. However, Ayame sees Naruto walk in and she stands there in shock. Teuchi turns around and sees him. Naruto! I heard that you were in a coma. They said you would never wake up. Naruto felt tears come to his eyes. This man had always been one of 4 adults in the village who had ever truly been kind. And right now he needed it. He needed a father figure to tell him that everything would be okay. I'm okay. Just took a long nap. Teuchi pulled him over and sat him down at the bar. Put on the pot, Ayame. Teuchi went about working his magic and making what would be the best bowl of ramen he had made in years. Once it was ready, he gave it to Naruto. Eat up. It's on the house. He then packaged up the rest of it. And feel free to take the rest of it home with you. This will be my special gift to you. Naruto smiled and thanked him for the meal and began to eat. It was so good. At about that time, someone else walked in. It was Hinata. She sat down beside him. He took one look at her and then did a double take. She had truly grown in these past years. She'd become so beautiful. Naruto sat there in silence. She spoke. How have you been? I heard you woke up a few months back and you didn't even come to say hi. He sat there. I didn't have time. I had a lot on my mind. She let out a kind smile. I understand. She sat there with her elbows on the table. When the doctor said you might not wake up, I cried for days. And when I heard that Menma left the village, I felt so bad for him. Naruto looked over. What he's been through. I can understand why he would feel this way. I don't think he's gone bad, nor do I think he's turned evil. Naruto, I think he's lost. Scared. I think he needs you. Naruto was doing his best to fight against crying in his ramen. Hinata continued. When he comes back here, Sakura and I will both be here to save him from himself. Kakashi too. All those who ever cared about him. We are going to remind him of who he is and bring him home. Naruto hugged there. They sat there together, Hinata holding him in her embrace. She would walk him home, helping him carry his ramen. She would help him put it in the fridge so that he could reheat it later. As they stood there in the light of the refrigerator, Naruto couldn't help himself. He pushed himself forward and kissed her. She wasn't expecting it, but she didn't exactly pull away. They spoke for a little while before she bid him farewell. She'd return home and Naruto would be left by himself. Brushing his teeth, he would lay down in his bed and look up at the ceiling most of the night, thinking of how much had changed for the worse and how much had changed for the better. Elsewhere, Menma was in the middle of an assassination plot against Orochimaru. Orochimaru had taught him everything he could, and now Menma was planning to kill the terrorist now that he no longer had any use left for him. As Orochimaru's blood stained the floor, Menma stood over him and looked up. It was time for him to pass his judgment on Konoha. He had reached the village the day after. Dream Kurama could be seen from the distance, slowly approaching the village. This was exactly how he wanted it. Menma smiled as his tailed beast slowly approached the village. He knew that people would be able to see it coming, and those who did would scream in terror. Funny enough, the closer he came, the more he could hear it. I never did anything to you, he said to them. But you were so scared of me that you became a self-fulfilling prophecy. You made me into the thing you feared most, and now you dare to scream in terror and beg for mercy? I begged for mercy. I begged a lot, and you gave me none. And because you gave me none, you have no right to ask why I don't have any in stock. The beast stepped into the village as people fled, all except one, a small boy who suddenly summoned a giant toad. The tailed beast stopped. Menma saw him and let his face display the shock he was feeling inside. Naruto! Naruto stood on Gamabunta's head and spoke. Menma, this has gone far enough. Get down from there. Menma cleared his throat. I was told you would never awaken. Naruto looked down at himself. Looks like they were wrong. Now get down from there. I don't want to fight you, and we don't have to fight. Menma looked at him with shock. Why are you defending them? They're the ones who did this to you. They're the ones who did this to us. Since when do they deserve any mercy from us? Naruto took a deep breath and spoke. They deserve it because I've decided that they do. Menma began to snarl. Well, I've decided they don't. Naruto just looked at his brother through concerned eyes. Menma, I know they hurt us, but can you stop and ask yourself why they hurt us? They hurt us because they were hurt too. They were hurt before we were, and just as you want to destroy the village for hurting you, they want to destroy you for hurting them. It's an endless cycle of hatred and violence, and I won't participate anymore. Menma raised his arms. So what do you want me to do? I've spent 2 years training and dreaming about this. You expect me to just give up on it willy-nilly, just because you told me to? Naruto raised his own arms. I was put into a coma for these 2 years, so you're not one to talk about wasted time. Menma sighed. I really wish it didn't have to be like this. I'm going to destroy this village. You'll probably hate it, but I know you'll forgive me. Dream Kurama began to tear through the village. Gamabunta rushed over and gripped the beast. Naruto shot from the head of Gamabunta to Dream Kurama's, gripping Menma and rolling down the beast's back. They hit the ground. While the two titans fought, Menma and Naruto were fighting too. Menma pushed him back. Don't make me hurt you, Naruto. Naruto looked at him with a sneer. The same goes for you. They continued to fight. Despite everything, Naruto was starting to pull ahead. In anger, Menma began to use his perfected version 2 cloak along with his curse mark of heaven. Naruto, on the other hand, began utilizing his version 1, which was the only one he was capable of mastering. He then added Sage Mode to it to hopefully get him to the same strength. The two clashed further. Naruto formed a Rasengan and rushed Menma as Menma formed a miniature-tailed beast ball. Naruto dodged the ball and struck Menma with the Rasengan, which seemed to crack his shell a little. Slowly, the shell healed. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Sakura, Kakashi, and Hinata appeared to strike Menma. We're not letting you do this, Menma, Sakura shouted. Menma rolled and returned to his feet. They continued to battle like this for a while, but it became obvious that Menma was still stronger. They stood there, all together, out of breath as Naruto looked to them. There's one last hope. I can break his shell, but I need your help. He began to form a Rasengan. He then looked to them. Pour your chakra into this. They began to pour all of their chakra into the Rasengan. Menma came rushing at them. Naruto rushed forward with a giant Rasengan in hand. He jumped into the air and smashed it down upon Menma. And in that moment, the shell shattered with an intense explosion. Naruto was knocked back, but was caught by his friends. There they stood. When the smoke settled, they saw Menma there on his knees, battered and bruised, out of breath. He stumbled and stood. He pulled out a kunai. I won't let you stop my revenge. He began to walk forward with it, but Naruto walked to meet him. He merely flicked the kunai away before wrapping his arms around Menma. Brother, please stop. You don't need to do this anymore. Menma grunted as tears sprang from his eyes. They hurt you. They hurt you so bad. I can never forgive them. Kakashi walked over and hugged Menma, as too did Sakura and Hinata. I'm sorry I wasn't there to protect you, Kakashi said. Sakura then spoke. I know you're angry. Understandably so, but you do have friends. Us. Hinata also spoke as she hugged him. You're one of my best friends, Menma. You don't have to do this. Menma fell to his knees. I didn't mean to kill everyone. I was so scared they'd killed you, Naruto. You're all I had, and when I left, they told me I was going to be executed and have my tailed beast taken out of me. I was so scared. Kakashi continued to hug him. It's okay. We'll explain this to Lady Tsunade. I'm sure she'll understand. And that was exactly what they did. Tsunade pardoned Menma for his crimes and then went about explaining the truth to the villagers as Hiruzen failed to. This didn't stop the hate, but the fear that Menma might snap again certainly kept them in line. As time passed, things went back to normal. Menma and Sakura began a relationship, and Naruto and Hinata went steady. Eventually, these two couples would marry and begin the next generation. But all the while, something loomed in the darkness, waiting for the day that it might rear its ugly head. And I think that's where we'll call it an end. As you can see though, I left it open. My main reasoning for this is because I just realized that I never once talked about the Akatsuki. I mean, if I wanted, this could be a universe where they never existed at all, and seeing that the story has really reached its conclusion, I'm sort of leaning that way. But then again, if you guys truly enjoyed this series and would like to see a little side story, you can always let me know, and maybe I'll make an extra part to see how Menma and Naruto would navigate through the threat of the Akatsuki and their Eye of the Moon plan. But I think that's a story for another day. If you enjoyed the video, let us know. Leave a comment below and tell us how we did and what you enjoyed most, as well as what you'd like to see in the future. Until then, peace out.
Did you enjoy our video? Well then be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.